enjoying a proper British summer, even if some of our colleagues disagree with us. But it is ideal for fast lap times, particularly this afternoon, and they're going to need to do them to bank themselves a place in the top 14.
Udah mulai nih guys, Moto3 praktisnya, penentuan buat masuk ke YouTube nih. Semoga aman ya streamku ya. Maksudnya aku nggak tahu teman-teman. Sebelumnya gue konfirmasi dulu, aku nggak tahu kita kalau nayangin lap time-nya doang aman nggak. Harusnya aman sih guys ya, cuman aku nggak tahu nih. Balik lagi nih, ini aku coba-coba aja. Kita live reaction praktis dari Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP teman-teman. Tapi gue nggak tampilin full ya, ini gue tampilin dari lap dari posisi-posisinya aja, sembari gue nonton juga. Itu guys. Welcome teman-teman semuanya, selamat datang kembali di channel selalu ya, bersama gua Arif di sini. Ini misalkan kalau ini ada yang nggak suka, maksudnya dari pihak MotoGP, ada yang kontak gua atau ada orang yang nggak bisa, itu awas bahaya. Aku bakal langsung take down videonya guys. Belum ada poin khusus. Kuntilanak, hihi, aku adalah kuntilanak. Apa sih? Singapore and Moto Vitelli just have a little bit of a set two down towards Brooklands. They're coming through left field now, and then Woodcock corner. Kelihatan kan di situ nggak bisa. Ini gue cuma nunjukin dari praktis posisinya doang ya guys ya. Semoga aman teman-teman. Karena gue juga suka MotoGP, ngikutin gue.
I think if you get into the final 10 minutes of this session, especially maybe even the final 15 minutes.
Ya, kok loading sih.
Where you crash or maybe potentially encounter any sort of problem with your motorcycle, I think you can pretty much forget about trying to improve your time in the final sort of 10-15 minutes, such as the
lap. Udah paling gurih nih settingannya.
Some of these riders will long lap, so yeah, final 10 minutes. If you make any sort of mistake and have to go into the pits, I think you can kiss goodbye to improving your time. So do watch out for that. It's more pronounced than it is at other tracks like the Sachsenring last time around.
And with that in mind, Al, you're going to need to be, because it's quite a long
pit
lane as well, because it goes back all the way round the corners and it feeds you out coming through farm.
Live reaction sesi praktis Moto3, Moto2 dan MotoGP.
At least 3 minutes on the clock, depending where your pit box is. It's no, you can't leave it to the last moments of this one. You're gonna have to get out with 3 minutes to go and make sure you put in a very respectable outlap to get through and get down to business later on. I can tell you we've already had our fastest time of the day. Veda Pratama's come across the line to do a 2:10.35.
Veda Pratama, kita lihat Veda Pratama.
The track conditions out there are very, very good indeed. He's just over a second away from that lap record that was set in qualifying last year. As I said, conditions absolutely ideal for going gangbusters today. Almanza's just improved the time again, a 2:10 flat. That's half a second quicker than what he did this morning.
Yeah, Almanza rising straight back to P1 then. Veda Pratama and Valentin Peroni have set the exact same lap time, which is good stuff from those two. But yeah, the cream rising to the top.
Suara ininya pas kan guys.
Brian Ariarte, the winner of course from the Sachsenring last time around in P2, Max Keeles.
Nobar, tapi nobar yang nonton gue doang. Kalian bagian nonton lap time.
Weekend on their first flying laps of the session, so that bodes well for the rest of the 28 minutes and a little bit more than we've got remaining in practice. As mentioned, the conditions are pretty much ideal, so this bodes well for the rest of the session. It could be a good one to keep your eyes on.
Tapi gue ngeliat Moto3 tuh kayak kenceng-kenceng banget.
This afternoon, Valentin Peroni qualified 8th, came through for 5th here last year at Silverstone. Adrian Cruces is here for the first time because
ya, waktunya 28 detik. Moto3 ini kelar kita jam 11 kayaknya. stream.
a big old track to learn, and that was represented earlier on today when Cruces was down outside the top 20 in 22nd place, so he can do a lot worse.
Suaraku pas gak guys? Apakah gedean suaranya?
Follow the Argentinian round as they come out onto the hanger straight. Worth noting as well,
Oh,
the
pas ya, pas.
third timing point has just moved a little bit this year. It was actually on the entrance to the right-hander where Quiles fell earlier on today. Now it's on the exit, so just worth noting there that the third sector just ever so slightly different where they come through it, and that obviously means that sector 4 starts later as well.
Manza and Uriarte then getting straight down to business. 4/10 faster through the third split was Almanza. 4.5 was Brian Uriarte. We're focusing on Peroni though.
Oke, di Almanza masih P1 Uriarte, P2 Quiles, P3. Belum ada referensi. Veda sekarang di P6 ya.
Peroni needs a result this weekend, doesn't he? Took a big old whack. Not quite his fault over at the Sachsenring at that lap 2 turn 1 incident. Yeah, so good to see Peroni back on track, but no podium since the opening weekend in Thailand. Wasn't expecting to see that for Peroni. Big second half of the season.
Gue bacain aja buat kalian teman.
Well, his P4, which I think he took over in Assen, was his first top.
Veda Pratama masih P5 guys. P6 Perone sama Pratama tuh beda guys, beda ya. Sekarang Silverstone curve-nya ganti warna ke merah teman-teman. Aku baru sadar ini. Udah bukan hitam putih lagi. Udah normal. Tapi bagusan hitam putih sih, jadi pembeda sih ya. Sekarang jadi merah aja curve-nya, merah putih coy. Kayak dulu bagusan hitam putih, kayak lebih dark gimana gitu ya.
Little Moto 3 tiddlers where you can really pick up a big amount of slipstream. That's one of them through Woodcut corner all the way down into Cops, the old turn.
Lah melebar dia.
A bit of slipstream up this hill here. This is in towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, down the hanger straight again. And then down the main
anak didiknya Marquez.
have now here at Silverstone, the international wing, and then down the national straight, which is on the run
tiba-tiba
down
burik sih.
to Brooklands. Plenty of
Sorry ya kalau jaringan gua rada-rada kadang ya.
Where slipstream is so vital, particularly on these Moto 3 machines. Fastest lap time at the moment, Brian Uriarte, just in behind David Almanza.
Oke, itu dia musuh lap time-nya 2 menit 9.668 dari Uriarte. Dia fastest. Ini penentuan buat kualifikasi kedua ya. Siapa yang bakal langsung lolos ke kualifikasi kedua, dan sisanya siapa yang bakal ke Q1 guys.
Result last time out with a P6, so good job. Sorry, with a P6, not quite equally as P5, but a good job done from Rico Salmon. I've been really impressed with the number 27 so far this year as he moves up into P10 in his first visit to Silverstone as well. A few riders visiting this Silverstone circuit for the first time, so they'll learn a lot this morning in the 10 or so laps than they did. Yeah, they're coming out all guns blazing in this afternoon session.
Sumpah gue kalau main game balap di Silverstone itu pusing, sirkuitnya cepet banget, pergerakannya capek, bikin capek guys.
The Moto 3 and Moto 2 teams, and yeah, an impressive Finn jumping into the box, which is led by the Finns. Makes sense, and he deserves that jump.
MotoGP praktis sekarang sisa 23 menit lagi. Semoga Veda lolos ke Q2 ya. Apa sih tiba-tiba ngeblur?
So 3 will start to take shape because obviously there will be some riders in here that do fail.
Nih di sini 2 menit panjang banget katanya guys, 2 menit kayak Sepang lah, mirip-mirip panjangnya.
Some rumors circulating around his future as well as Alvaro Carpe, because obviously Carpe, it is going to be Rico Salmela who comes
lagi di POV-nya Uriarte. Quiles ngamuk merah tuh, Quiles. Sektor 1, sektor 2, sektor 3 merah semua guys. Ya, kayak mana lah ini macet-macet mulu.
Is he going to start maybe looking towards Moto 2? We'll all have to wait and see, but we won't have to wait and see for very much longer because it's all going to shake out over the course of the next month or so, you imagine.
Sam Miller was fifth in Germany, getting muddled up there. So
I was going to say, I had him down as fifth.
No, I read it wrong. It was his equal best performance last time out in Germany. I thought it was, and then I saw P6. I was like, well, I'll say it. But
gue stream sampai jam 10-an lebih nunggu MotoGP mah. Kalau Moto tuh aku kurang terlalu ngikutin sih. Sekarang malah lebih ke Moto3 sama MotoGP, guys.
Here he is with Max Keeler's just cut away slightly at the wrong time. I don't think Keeler's was potentially making a move. We saw that this morning.
Alah, lapnya ke cancel kah? Oh, udah. Keeles posisi 3 sekarang. Beda Pratama masih P6 ya. 14 besar lolos ke Q2, guys.
Then you get into the loop and then it opens up through entry of turn 5. That's the left kink of entry before the Wellington Straight and into the famous Brooklands Luffield section.
It is a brilliant racetrack. Every single corner has history round here. Luffield, Brooklands, Woodcote, Copse, Stowe at the end of the Hanger Straight, Vale and Club. There are so many corners round here that have just about seen everything. But you know what, MotoGP in 2026 across all three classes,
Ada yang lebar
for an absolute belter this weekend. I think we're in for a real treat and probably a good few surprises as well. So we see Max Keeler's trying to carve under Brian Uriarte. That's what we wanted to do last time out in Germany on the last lap. Wasn't quite able to do
lebar
so.
Bang.
Wasn't quite able to make it stick this time. Was he? Oh yes he was. On the way up the hill, Brian Uriarte then having to slot in behind.
Kalau misalkan gua nggak boleh live kayak gini nampilin posisi-posisi ridernya, gua langsung bakal end stream, guys. Gua nggak tahu soalnya. Coba-coba. Watch party gini, live reaction. Kebetulan kan gue suka ngikutin MotoGP ya dari lama ya. Gue nggak tahu sih boleh apa enggaknya. Corner speednya kenceng banget. Siapa itu Uriarte 51 Uriarte ya, iya. Dia masih fastest, guys.
Such has been in the last few races, especially the quality that the 51 has shown. Picked up a couple of race victories to go with it as well. Keeles made a couple of moves on that lap, did he? But it wasn't his best. 5/10 away from the top time as Nico Tirol looks pensively on in the Aspar garage, and so does Nicky Io there in the Io garage. A good start to the session, Kiko, for Casey O'Gorman, the Irishman. Not quite on home turf, but as close to it as he will get in terms of Grand Prix spec this season and for the next couple of seasons as we look forward to coming to Silverstone in 2027 and in
Moto3 tuh banyak kayak kelihatan nggak nempel tau. Tuh lihat ban depannya, anjir. Tipis banget nempelnya, tapi literally kayak ban motor gua lah. Motor apa FU gitu. Cuman gak bulat banget, tapak lebar banget, tapak lebar banget.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Adrian Cruz was right in the wrong place at the wrong time twice there. He's Almanza was coming through him, and Keeles was coming through him, and now I think Brian Uriarte.
19 menit lagi, guys.
Adrian Cruz has eyes on springs as he was coming through Luffield and Woodcote.
Ini gue yakin dia pakai bensinnya, tangkinya full semua dari awal biar nggak usah bolak-balik ke pit lane kayaknya. Langsung dari awal keluar pit lane, improve sendiri gitu. Kalau MotoGP kan 5 menit, sisa 5 menit dia balik dulu pit lane baru gas tuh. 5 menit terakhir. Saya nanya data dulu. Permana yang aku kurang kenceng.
Of turn 15, Pedro Acosta crashing here in the MotoGP session earlier on this morning. Carpe will find out what he does to the line. He's had to negotiate a couple of riders in this final split. This is the Vale section now towards the end of the lap where the races in Moto3 and Moto2 last year were won and lost. Let's get Carpe over the line then. That's picking up Valentin Peroni. who comes across the line, doesn't improve. Where does Carpe go? P4. So that's a good lap from Alvaro Carpe.
Peda Pratama 9 sekarang turun dia.
So does Alvaro Carpe. He's seen his teammate, his rookie teammate, win a couple of times now before the 83 has. I'm sure a win is coming for Carpe. He's too good not to win in Moto 3 before a potential move comes to Moto 2 next season. But Carpe is desperate. He's admitted that
semua tikungan ada motor anjir kalau Moto 3. 17 menit lagi.
Into the season. He's not to contention yet, of course. He's only 1 point behind his teammate Brian Ariati, but it was a small mistake over there at Sachsenring that had big consequences. Finished the race, of course.
Abu-abu semua guys. Ini kurang sih powernya sih kalau Veda main di sirkuit ini sih. Motornya banyak membutuhkan transmisi gigi 3 ke atas.
And obviously wider world championship career and hasn't won at all. So Carpe, he will be more than aware of that. Of course, he doesn't need to listen to us go on about it. But for sure, Carpe will be looking to try and get something sorted. His best opportunity, it seemed, this year was over in Austin, but he was too focused on Valentin Peroni, and then of all people, Guido Pini took the mickey out both of them and took the victory. Pini at the moment down in 22nd place, 20th for Adrian Fernandez. As Hiroshi Oyama and co watch on, they're obviously going to be keeping an eye on Kiatizak Singapore this weekend as well as Veda Patama. Patama at the moment up there in 9th place and is just entered the pit lane. So the Indonesian going well. Hakim Danish on his way around this circuit. This will be a massive learning curve for Hakim Danish, of course, like it is all the rookies. They're still trying to find markers and still trying to find the optimum racing line. And Hakim Danish at the moment is on an improved lap and 0.9 off. It's not going to be quite putting him in the top 14, but it'll be another step towards it.
Yeah, not going to push him up too much, Danish, on this lap time around. And of course, he's allowed teammate Ryusa Yamanaka to come through as well. Carpe was on another personal best, but lost a little bit of time in that final split. Yeah, Danish doesn't improve as expected, and the two teammates, the MSI teammates, are just battling out. But I do think, yeah, Danish will be clever to just slot in behind Ryusa Yamanaka. Yamanaka, of course, vastly experienced around here, qualified on the front row back in 2022, and has a couple of top 10s in the last couple of races. In fact, in the last 3, Yamanaka has finished inside the top 10 here.
15 menit lagi.
Has turned a little bit of a corner before the sun break as well as the experienced Japanese rider, which is good to hear. And yeah, Danish has just lost touch on this lap time around. So 15 minutes to go. This session has flown by, really, and this is now beginning to get into the crucial stage of the session where times and mistakes do really count.
I've got to say, we had a nice little shot there over at turn 3. Good to see the fans have already turned up here on Friday at Silverstone. I mean, it's absolutely by no means full. This is a place that can hold well over 100,000 people, but for a Friday crowd, I've got to say, looking pretty healthy in parts of this track, and you know there's going to be a lot more in tomorrow and Sunday. The big day, your Grand Prix Sunday, is going to be absolutely packed to the rafters. I reckon well over 50, maybe even towards 60,000 fans in here across the course on Sunday. Now that would be something pretty spectacular, wouldn't it, if we can have a British GP to remember in the height of a fantastic British summer, as I've already said earlier on. Fernandez and Carpe duking it out. I think Fernandez has took the shortcut at Chapel, so Carpe will be released. Meanwhile, the 3 at the very front of this, Quiles, Almanza and Uriarte, it's about as we expected. Those 3 setting a lot of fast times. I've got to say, this will be interesting to look at the chronological analysis, the race pace analysis after that, of course, which is available for all of you guys at home as well on MotoGP.com to see exactly what the lap times they are doing, because they're doing them all together. So it's really interesting to see whether or not one's holding another up or whether they are really down to business and working as a trio.
Yeah, get stuck into those a little bit later on. Who can we give a shout out to so far in the session? Already said O'Gorman, he's remained inside that top 5. Ogden has moved up a few places. He's now 7th place, the lead home hero, the lead British rider on the grid so far. I'd say just lingering outside the top 14 in P15 as things stand. So O'Shea will be wanting to improve in the final 13 minutes or so. Fresh rubber then going to be slotted in for these riders, most in the pits, and understandably so, as well. Uriarte and Manzu have continued on their way. So have Adrian Fernandez and Ryusi Yamanaka, Guido Pini down in P22. It's not been the season Guido Pini would have been expected part of course in general as well.
13, kayaknya 10 menit mereka bakal langsung lagi nih, pada lagi break nih. Masih Uriarte 2 menit 9, 6, 6, 8 ya guys ya. Almansa P2.
Likewise, further down, as you said, Guido Pini, Matteo Bertelli on the podium last time out. And I've got to say, Hakim Danish, we haven't seen too much of him being outside the top
MotoGP jam 10 guys.
Yeah, riders who have done a very, very solid job indeed. Keiso Gorwin, as we've already said, up in 5th place. You say Yamanaka seems to be slightly more back at the races so far in the last couple of GPs. And this rider on your screen, Eddie O'Shea, he'll be looking to try and move up at least one position. 2:10.611. That would have put him second this morning. So Eddie O'Shea's not going slow, but like everyone around him, he has improved as well.
Yeah, and as you know, this is the part of the session now where the top 14 places are won and, of course, lost as well. Intrigued to see what tactics are at play here, because there's not too much messing around to be done in the closing exchanges. They can't wait around too much. They'll obviously know that, the teams, of course. It's a longer outlap here, well over 2 minutes, potentially pushing 3 if there is some messing about, which, I don't know, we're in a Moto 3 session, so there probably is going to be some messing about.
Mereka pada masuk pit lane.
You mentioned it earlier, Kiko.
9 menit terakhir mungkin atau 10 menit terakhir mereka bakal push limit ya, biar dapatkan posisi ke Q2 ke rebutannya. Mana nih pecinta MotoGP, Moto3, Peda dan kawan-kawan. Tapi lapar gue, kenapa jam 9? Masa strip sambil makan ini gue. Oh, welcome yang baru join. Para penonton yang nonton game MotoGP gua main karir si Jupri Fernandez. 10 menit lagi. 6 lap total mereka rata-rata tadi keliling. Base lapnya di lap ke-7 210.295. Filmnya bagus, anjir, ping-ping gitu. Oh, ini Veda MS Glowman. Wih, di syuting mulu si Veda loh, bro. 2 menit 10. Veda P9 sekarang. P9. Veda P9 sekarang ya.
Adrian Fernandez, Ruse Yamanaka, Adrian Cruz says, Rico Salmella and Marco Morelli, your final riders inside the top 14 at the moment, but just 100 of a
9 menit lagi waktu practice section akan selesai.
Then Cormac Buchanan for New Zealand, they're in 16th ahead of fellow Antipodean Joel Kelso 17th.
Antangin depan di sini helmnya ada antangin. Terus MS Glowman di atas sekarang.
Likewise, like so many of the rookies here for a first time. Matteo Bertelli's back after a year out here at Silverstone. He missed this Grand Prix last year through injury. He's 20th. Nicola Carraro 2.9 seconds off in 21st, 3 seconds off altogether. Guido Pini's got work to do. It was a terrible weekend for him last time out. His worst qualifying, I'm fairly sure, of the entire season, down there in 23rd place in Germany. Kietazak Singapong is making his debut, the tie rider there in 23rd. David Gonzalez is deputising for David Munoz for the Liquid Moly Dynavolt Intact GP.
Ah, elah, macet.
Team, he's in 24th. Leo Ramersdorf for the 658.
Dari streamnya kayaknya, guys.
Leonardo Abruzzo there in 26th place. He's replacing Ruche Moody, and I should say, just on Kiatazak Singapong, he's replacing.
Gue nggak tahu race-nya bisa nayangin nggak ya.
Flurry of full-time riders.
Besok sprint race sama race MotoGP-nya.
Certainly have. Right then, 8.5 minutes to go. The piercing eyes of Casey
Ini gue harus sambil makan ya guys.
Casey a few times already, but focusing
Sebentar, gue tinggal dulu.
on his garage P5, he'll be pretty pleased with
8 menit
that.
tersisa tuh.
Taken that,
Dia mau berangkat lagi, Veda juga mau berangkat.
Knows there's work to do and time to be found as well.
Not going to get many laps in here, El. If we're talking a 3-minute out lap, or at least up towards a high 2-minute out lap, we're going to be getting down with 5 minutes to go, perhaps. Maybe a third if you sneak across the line, but it's going to be tight. So all these guys, it's going to be an old-fashioned World Superbike session, Super Pole session. 1 lap, go for broke or go home.
Yeah, and as we say, yellow flags, if it comes out on your opening lap, you've only got pretty much 1 lap to go, and if you make a small mistake, that is your session done. So Guido Pini and the Leopard Honda team know they've got work to do. Adrian Fernandez is up inside that top 10, just inside that top 14, but by no means safe.
Masa 5 menit tersisa?
3 seconds away.
Udah 7 menit ya guys.
Matteo Batelli,
7 menit lagi.
finisher last time out, also knows he's got work to do. 1.8 seconds away in P20.
And they're all waiting because around here, as we said earlier, there's so many opportunities for slipstream. The front straight, the back straight, the old front straight, the hanger straight, and then a little bit of slipstream that link a few parts of this track. As we said, 4, 5, maybe even 6 places around here where slipstream on a Moto3 bike can really help your lap time. It's a free bit of time. It's a free 1/10 of a second. Tell you what, we're going to be getting down here towards 2 laps if they're lucky. I mean, they will not want to be waiting any longer. Joel Esteban, I reckon you're pretty okay if you are on a 210, a low 210. I would not want to be any further out. I say a low 210, but a low 210 is in a 210.2. I wouldn't be looking at a 210.4 because that's what we say Yamanaka is already on. You could be needing to be absolutely sure a 209.
Yeah, I'm thinking 209s and you are probably definitely safe. Yeah, maybe O'Gorman's 210.1 looks relatively safe, but still it's 3/10 away from Sal Mella in P13 and
lap kelima, lap kelima.
So
lap 6 menit terakhir.
There's some Manza has bolted
lagi tunggu-tungguan tuh.
Fellow CIP Green Power teammate
baru jalan guys, buset. 5 menit tersisa.
That's understandable. He's just getting used to the Moto3 machine. Of course,
paling cuma dapat 2 lap ini. 2 lap terakhir mereka. Buat lolos ke Q2, kita lihat siapa yang bakal lolos ke Q2 section guys. Seru nih.
5.5 minutes more or less for these riders to get round, complete an out lap, and it's not going to be a quick one because they're barely out of pit lane. Kelso and O'Shea have bolted, which I think is smart. Get out there and get a lap time in. O'Shea needs it, and so does Kelso because they are
Kiles belum keluar.
17.
Belakangannya keluarnya.
I don't need 2 laps, and I think Max Giles is pretty safe. Aman's safe, Brian Arias safe. Oh, there we go. Yellow flags at turn 3. Now that is where we are now. Now that is David Gonzalez. That's over at Luffield. That is not. That's on the exit of the long lap. So it's a very long lap as he makes his way through the rocks. Oh, to tell you what,
juga keluar pit lane. Dalam banget tuh pasirnya.
But we did have someone on the deck at turn 3. So we'll have to wait and see who exactly that was.
Ada yang main gravel aja. Strike to Q2 14 besar.
Pencil sharpener.
Let's go.
Ready in the MotoGP stewards room with all this dawdling going on, I'm sure as well. So Moto3 practice, it is all coming to a head very, very soon. And the way that these guys are carrying on, they might well
4 menit lagi guys.
looking to find a lap time a bit too late.
Uriarte masih tercepat ya.
They're going to get a couple of laps perhaps, but nothing more.
Yeah, 2 laps maximum at this. We've already seen a yellow flag come and go, and a mistake for David Gonzalez running wide. Not sure what happened
Semoga Veda lolos Q2 lolos. Semoga Veda lolos Q2.
Carpe leads the freight train around. Carpe doesn't necessarily need time, but obviously he'll be going for one anyway, just in case there's a flurry of times coming in the time attack mode that has now been engaged, closely followed by Kelso.
Wah, di towing semuanya ban belakang. Di paling depan di towing no. Ini adalah permainan
bad rider to try and follow either.
And don't forget track limits.
Pikiran.
Head onto the green on the outside of the curbs.
Ini masalah towing menowing sih kalau Moto3 sih jelas.
Having that lap time cancelled. As I think that yes it was Ryusei Yamanaka just
towingan doang sih ya. Kalau di depan ada dua rider side by side, dapat tutup semua tuh anginnya guys, slipstream. Di trek lurusnya banyak lagi di sini. Trek lurusnya banyak banget. Silverstone tuh.
Fastest rider not currently in. Fantastic look at the box there inside. Not sure whose box it was, but never mind.
Ya udah mulai ya. 3 menit. Kita lihat siapa yang bakal lolos Q2. Udah mulai nih. Bisa 2 lap kayaknya. Ini siapa sih? Nomor 8. Osea. Namanya keren banget. Osea. Malah ngelebar. Lebar semua. 2, 3, 4 orang. Hati-hati bro. Tabrak orang ntar lewat situ. Masuk tikungannya ngeri banget anjir.
The exact point we were mentioning, one mistake can ruin your lap, nearly ruining his lap there with David Manzon, loses time in that final split, but good job from Cruces and Ogden, the CRP Green Power team sending them out nice and early, get a lap time on the board. They're inside that top 14 anyway, but they've improved it and looks like they're pretty much safe and sound. Don't want to nail that home as things stand, but P5 and P6 with just under 2 minutes to go, maybe that is job done.
Ya kayak selapnya dong lebar nginjek keluar injek hijau dia guys.
Into Q2, but I'm just a commentator. What do I know? 1.5 minutes left on the clock as they
semenit setengah lagi. Wah, lebar semua pada. Hakim Danis di depan sekarang. Wah, lebar dia. Side Y bannya. Slide. Oke, berapa dia? Bertele masuk. Beda naik pas 10. Turun ke 11 tadi terus naik lagi 10. Uriarte masih memimpin ya, fastest 2 menit 9.668. O'Gorman posisi 2. Almansa P3, Piles P4.
That top 15, Kelso and Eddie O'Shea came over the line well over 9 seconds and 10 seconds slower than their fastest laps through the first split. On the other lap that we saw them make, ran wide at Brooklands, they were slower then, but lots of red sectors now popping up on our timing screens.
Scott Ogden is one of them, Eddie O'Shea is another, so the Brits are going brilliantly at the moment in the final 30 seconds of all this. Matteo Bertelli as well has got clear track ahead.
Udah nggak bisa lagi muter. Ini last attack, final last lap, final time attack. Apalagi sebutannya merah semua sektor 1 loh. Aduh, malah nge-freeze.
What the British crowd came to see is what we want to see in commentary. We're not biased, but
ya elah giliran kayak gini nge-freeze kenapa sih? Udah habis waktunya ya, 0-0. Bertele bisa masuk si P5 itu. Beda terancam guys, posisi 10. Asli tipis banget.
Yeah, big final split then coming up for Eddie O'Shea. Valentin Peroni looks like he's going to jump up towards the top of the timesheets. Morelli, this is crucial for Morelli. He'll consider himself still in title contention. There he is on the 97. Just shadowing Matteo Bertelli, who also needs a lap time. Bertelli
breaking.
But this is a crucial final. Chicane at Vale and Club Corner to complete the lap.
Kenapa orang belok? Palanya sambil ngeliat di kanan gitu ya, masih bisa. Veda Pratama P3.
11th place and Ryusa Yamanaka as well.
Beda Pratama P3 guys, tadi P2 loh. Seru. Tiba-tiba dia dari P10 naik ke P2, tapi OGD nih tiba-tiba naik ke P2 juga guys. Peron P1, Riarte turun ke P4 ya. War lap that was from Veda Ega Pratama. Ya, seru. Ramai banget bro. Ada 20 rider di situ. Pada latihan start Argentina, Inggris, Indonesia. Gila, Veda Ega Pratama top 3 guys, top 3. GG, gak sia-sia gue buat party gini. Valentin Peron 2 menit 9.568 all time lap record. Pastes dia.
Yeah, Pini 3 seconds off. I think the less said about that, the better. Not the case though for Scott Ogden. A great lap at the end. Great couple of laps to be fair for Ogden and his
P3 guys, Veda guys.
Finishes in P9, but they got their tactics spot on.
Dia aman, lolos Q2, udah pasti aman. Besok Q2 nih. Q2-nya kayaknya jam seginian juga. Jam 8-an mulai.
The Q2 automatically. Marco Morelli as well. Pressure was on there for Morelli and Eddie O'Shea just outside that top 10. So important laps at the end. Didn't quite cost them, a little bit too nervy.
Akan ke Moto 2.
Many riders, but that
is
how
ke MotoGP.
Some of the riders got the job done, others obviously not.
We said 209s, you're definitely in, and we said that 210s, maybe a 210.2 is the limit. Glad to say that we're right. So we are commentators on, but we do know something.
Yeah, potentially it sometimes comes off.
Oh, well.
Has made us look like we do know something when really we don't, to be fair. But we do our best, don't we? Casey O'Gorman will be happy with that P5 waves to the crowd, and rightly so. A really strong Friday afternoon for the number 67 on his birthday. So I think a day well spent for O'Gorman.
Yeah, there'll be a few celebrations, I'm sure, down there in the 658 Squadra Corsa camp, but very strong stuff indeed, right the way through. 2 Brits, an Irishman, and all our main title contenders moving through. Big job done though by Scott Ogden. He was didn't start the day very well at all. He was on the floor down at turn 3, but Scott Ogden now second this morning, second this afternoon. He has been the most consistent rider in Moto 3 across the whole course of today.
Yeah, great response, to be fair, from that crash earlier on this morning in FP1 to, as you say, back it up with a P2 this morning and with a P2 in this afternoon session as well. One place behind that rider there, Valentin Peroni.
They are all chasing the Argentina. 209.568 from Valentin Peroni sees him on top. It is a KTM 1-2 once again. Scott Ogden there in second. Veda Pratama for Indonesia.
Tuh, anjir, Veda P3 kualifikasi bro.
Who completes your 26 rider field.
Goks. Gokil.
Moto 3 all done. Moto 2 coming up next in the company of Lewis Suddery and Elliot York.
Tinggal Moto 2. Valentin Peron. Sama-sama Veper, oh enggak. Kalau Veda Pratama Vepra ya. Ini Veper. Kadang suka salah tuh nyebutnya tuh. Balik-balik. Kita ke Moto 2 sekarang. Udah jam 9 ya. Jam 9 Moto 2. Jam 10 kelar. Ya jam 11-an lah kayaknya guys. Jam 11 kurang berapa gitu MotoGP kelar.
And between now and the last weekend of November, so much still to be decided. This British Grand Prix, it's a formidable, almost unmatched record for classic action over the years. As I'm sure you've heard by now, 11 different winners in the last 11 MotoGP races at this venue. But even if you extend it out across the other classes, Moto3, well, that's seen history made. 2 of the last 3 Moto3 races have been won here from the very back of the grid. David Alonso in 2023 and Jose Antonio Rueda last year. Both of those, of course, they now ply their trade in a Moto2 class, which has also had its fair share of thrillers here over the year. The home glory of Jake Dixon in 2024, and arguably the best Moto2 race ever.
Langsung mulai nih Moto2 aja.
The battle here last year, which was won by Senna Aegis. It's his teammate Manu Gonzalez, though, who leads the World Championship and leads us into this practice session this afternoon after topping FP1 this morning. As always, it's Lewis Sotheby and Elliot York with you in the box for what should be an intriguing Moto2 practice session coming up. Manu Gonzalez, as he is rather prone to doing, laying a bit of a marker down in free practice form this morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, mate. Yeah, he certainly was, wasn't he? And hello to everyone.
Main lempar-lemparan apa
Moto2 practice here at Silverstone. It was definitely a marker laid down pretty much 5/10 faster than anyone else, and in second place was Barry Bausis, the returning Belgian. Great to see the number 7 back on track and looking quick as well. And in third place, Philip Salat,
David Alonso,
so yeah, the
CF
chasers,
Moto,
including David Alonso, who probably didn't enjoy his opening session here at Silverstone. Cracking a smile though, as he always does. And there you see the Aspar team saying thank you, David. It's going to be an emotional journey, isn't it, for the Aspar team, saying goodbye to their 2 Moto2 stars. David Alonso, of course, who won them the Moto3 title a couple of years ago in 2024, and of course Danny Holgado, who's been next to him inside that Moto2
dia masuk
for the last
MotoGP.
couple of Moto2 seasons. They are bidding farewell, a fond farewell, because they are moving to MotoGP. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few tears shed in Valencia when that particular journey comes to an end, but it's a journey we're going to be keeping our eyes locked into, and I'm sure you guys are as well at home, because potentially fascinating Moto2 title race is unfolding. But yeah, Alonso, a late crash down at Vale this morning, simple enough tip off, but one that Alonso wouldn't have wanted. Ended up with Alonso finishing down in P17, 1.6 seconds away from Manu Gonzalez. He won't be wanting to see the same sort of picture this afternoon, and there's a rather cool and calm looking character, isn't it? Senna Aegis. Where was he this morning? Down in
Ayo buru mulai Moto2 dah.
He makes it the exact same lap time as the returning Alonso Lopez. So Aegis, like all of these riders, chasing Manu Gonzalez, who is sat on the left-hand side of the box in the Intact GP box. Last year's British Grand Prix.
Mario Aji mana Mario Aji gak disuting Mario Aji.
Still awaiting his first victory in the class is
Helm sak tuh mulai rame dipakai rider ya sekarang ya. Waduh, kenapa tiba-tiba
box we go. That is Paul Espargaro's head that you're looking at the back of.
Paul Espargaro masuk ke Moto2 jadi mentor dia.
Danny Holgado.
Danny Holgado. Championshipnya P5 dia, 115 poin. Holgado, namanya keren ya, kayak gagah gitu. Holgado, anjir ya, kayak barbar gitu namanya.
For Paul Espargaro, the winner of the British Grand Prix in Moto2 back in 2012. The third season of the Moto2 class here at Silverstone, and a MotoGP pole sitter when he was on the factory Honda in 2021, and has clearly been integral to the development over the last year or two of Danny Holgado. Yeah, he certainly has. Whenever I'm down there in pit lane for Moto2 qualifying, Paul is always standing outside the box, not interfering too much at that stage of the weekend with Danny Holgado. Paul obviously knows what it's like to have people around you when you're rising through the ranks and becoming a MotoGP rider. Danny Holgado is doing, but yeah, great person to have in your corner, isn't it, Paul Espargaro?
Udah ada fans dari Jepang anjir, Inggris, Ajo Motorsport.
After a little bit of a lull in the mid part of the season, has picked up his sort of results again. Got that podium over in Italy, but that P2 and finishing so narrowly behind eventual race winner Ivan Ortola felt like a big one, didn't it, for Holgado to just try and get his championship charge back up and running. He's 1 point behind teammate David Alonso, 80.5 points behind Manu Gonzalez. So there's a mountain to climb, really, including Ethan Guevara's second in the championships. A little bit of a smaller mountain to climb, but when you're over 50 points back in the championship to a rider who has been so consistent this year in Gonzalez, it's going to be difficult to try and reel him in. But as we saw over the Sachsenring, it only takes one race and a couple of results like that to really change the picture. So really looking forward to this session first and foremost. It's where we properly get going in the second half of the campaign, practice here in Moto 2. But it is, of course, as we mentioned, Gonzalez who leads the way after FP1.
Sorry, thank Guevara a moment ago in the Blue Crew Pramac Boscuro box. Looks like he's due a haircut, does Ethan Guevara, but at least he has been trimming Manu Gonzalez's championship lead a touch recently. Cut the gap down to 51.5 points with his podium finish at the Sachsenring, returning to the scene of the first time he led the Moto 2 Grand Prix, when he led that thrilling British Grand Prix early on last year. Belgian support for Barry Baltus, and they will have their hero to cheer for once again as he looks set to make his 100th Moto 2 start this weekend. I'm slightly hesitant saying that because I did say that on the Friday morning in Brno, and of course we all know how that weekend ultimately panned out for Barry. But I guess the good news from Baltus's point of view, Els, not only was he back and fit, but he was fast too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. The only rider under half a second away to Gonzalez, which is great news around such a demanding circuit that is Silverstone. Really fast and flowing, flicking it from left to right, of course, especially with that famous
tiba-tiba, oh ini Mario Aji nih di syuting nih. Tak anjir.
Plus the time he missed off after the Czech Grand Prix through injury has helped Baltus recover pretty well. Of course, as we go through the weekend, it's going to get tougher for Baltus, and yeah, when the pressure ramps up, maybe he'll start feeling it a little bit more in that shoulder. Not an injury that you want as a motorcycle racer. Injuries do happen in this sport, unfortunately. That is the case in the sport we all love, and it's a pretty big one for Baltus, but great to see the number 7 back on circuit, and yeah, as we mentioned, pretty quick as well. Intrigued to see what he can do in this afternoon session.
Intrigued to see what this man can do too. Ivan Ortola, who flew under the radar a little bit earlier on today. 13th quickest on the 2:03.7. Didn't appear as if he put any new tyres on at the end of the session, as everyone made that sizable step forward in that time. Ivan Ortola did not. 13th for him.
Suara gue
21st on the
mute dulu ya.
It's going to be interesting to see what Piqueras can do in the second half of this season. He spoke a lot of working on his physical condition during the summer break since the Sachsenring. Of course, Piqueras' rookie season heavily truncated by injury after a really strong start, at least in terms of pure pace. He was very quick in the first 3 weekends. He's as the 19-year-old Spaniard from Valencia. So intrigued to see what he can do in the second half of this season, and I think many expecting big things from Piqueras in the second half of this year and beyond into 2027. Well, the 2027.
Kenapa ke paus-paus gini sih, coy?
Gonzalez, it might not actually feature any of those 4 names on your screen, if you can believe the rumours, with Aegis hotly tipped to head into MotoGP.
30 menit ya, Moto2 ya? 35 apa 30?
Heavily rumoured to potentially be heading across to the World Superbike Championship for next season, taking with him some very elevated names from MotoGP too. What's going to change across all of our Grand Prix classes as we head into next season, but our immediate focus
udah mulai guys,
the British Grand Prix, Friday afternoon, 40 minutes of practice and 14 places available to move through into qualifying 2 in nigh on perfect conditions here at the British Grand Prix. Of course, we've experienced something of a summer heat wave here in the United Kingdom, with temperatures quite frequently in excess of 30 degrees. We're in a rather more comfortable mid-ish 20s at the moment, 23 degrees of air temperature, according to my smart watch, which is much more comfortable for riders, much more comfortable for spectators. No sign of any rain impacting on the action, so nigh on perfect conditions for this Moto2 field in the 40 minutes to come.
Yeah, perfect conditions at the British Grand Prix. Who'd have thought
Yeah.
it? And it looks set to remain for the rest of the weekend as well, which is great news for the fans already here and fans coming for tomorrow and Sunday as well. And good news for Alonso too. He's been fast here in Moto 2 last year in the dry conditions. Just lost out to this rider, Senna Aegis, in the latter stages, of course, of that brilliant race last time around.
Banyak gede banget,
We
anjir.
mentioned it this morning. Aegis looks like he's got the seat in Tech 3. Gunsteiner was talking this morning as well, wasn't he, Lewis? In the session you were commentating.
Udah mulai ya.
Down there
40
in
menit,
pit lane,
ding.
and, Gunter bigging
Lama
up to his
juga,
potential
guys.
star as well, saying he's got bags of talent. He's a young rider and a very exciting one as well. That remains to be seen if the rumours are to be believed. I think everyone does choose to believe them, though. It sounds like that is going to happen. So, yeah, not good news for Manu Gonzalez, who we ride on board with. But good news for Senna Aegis and the Aussie fans too. But that is 2027. This is now, and the rider they're all chasing, as mentioned, is Manu Gonzalez coming into this session. We saw in Moto 3 the times dropped pretty much immediately, and we were close to lap record pace. Now this morning we were much closer. Well, Manu Gonzalez was much closer to lap record pace than we were in Moto 3 in FP1. But I think it's going to be a case of getting right down to the 202s for the riders who weren't in the 202s, which is everyone apart from Bautas and Gonzalez. And maybe, just maybe, we get down to the 201s, which will be lap record pace and beyond. So I think this session, if Moto 3 is anything to go by, is going to hot up pretty much straight away.
Yeah, and here are the first time laps getting underway then as they make their way around the final corner, turn 18. That is Club Corner, and now into Abbey with Luca Lanetta on the 32. The Speed RS team looking for a bit of a fight back here this weekend. Of course, both of their riders were in qualifying 1 at the German Grand Prix, and only one made their way through. Not the one perhaps they and we would have predicted pre-session. Lanetta that came through at Q1. First time in his rookie season, he's out-qualified his teammate Celestino Vietti, and Lanetta on occasion has really showed what he's about in Moto 2 this season. A pair of Q2 appearances, in fact 4 Q2 appearances in total, all via qualifying 1, and a pair of top 10 race finishes, 9th in Barcelona, 10th at the Sachsenring. And Lanetta
Jose Antonio Rueda. Jose Antonio Rueda. Antonio nama panggilan, Rueda nama panggilan, Jose nama panggilan. Nama panggilan semua dong itu.
Potentially that Vietti might be on the move. He's certainly on the move in this session as he goes up the inside of Jose Antonio Rueda. This is now through Copse Corner, turn 9 on the Silverstone track layout nowadays, and now into a spectacular sequence of changes of direction through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, which take us towards the Hangar Straight. That's Xavi Zuratusa just behind the gold helmeted Luca Lanetta, looking for a golden lap in this British Grand Prix Friday afternoon. Stowe Corner awaits us. We've seen just what kind of effect this can have, just how much Stowe can bite. Just ask Pedro Costa, the 2023 Moto 2 World Champion.
Ini bagus nih motornya nih. Warnanya nih biru-biru gini, gue suka guys.
It's a slight dip. It's about as much elevation change as you'll see around this Silverstone circuit, which is very flat. But there is a little bit of a drop in elevation as you head towards Vale.
Masih keren banget warna motornya coy.
Club Corner, which brings an end to this 5.9 kilometer lap. The first lap times beginning to come through. And Danny Munoz straight into the mid 202s. So already with Agi doing a 202.590, we're already within a quarter of a second of what Gonzalez did. That already from Agi is the second quickest lap of the day.
Yeah, as expected then, times tumbling right away. Not quite the quickest time of the weekend, but with Agi doing a 202.5. Expect those times to tumble as we near the all-time lap record and edge closer to the first 201 the Moto 2 bike has done around Silverstone. This is Joe Roberts who crossed the line at 205.1. Roberts will be vastly improving on that, so I'm sure. Guevara jumps up into P2. Just going to have a look at Gonzalez's time. He's setting a personal best. It is his first lap of the session, so it is going to be a personal best at this stage, but he's 2/10 shy. A couple of red sectors coming in as well. Danny Holgado, Danny Munoz, Alonso Lopez, Philip Salat through the first split now as well, and Mario Agi. So yeah, an impressive return actually, to be fair, for Agi upon his injury return. Last time out didn't end the way he would have wanted, but had a very solid weekend over at the German Grand Prix. Did end with the DNF, but he was straight in this morning. So yeah, been quietly impressed with the Indonesian on his injury return.
203.
Tony Arbellino. Oh, di sini masih ada Tony Arbellino ya. Ya. Bapuk servernya. Udah lancar kah? Udah lancar ya.
He's just gone over the line on a 202.570. Like Baltus showing no.
Danny Munoz there to rise to P1. Manu Gonzalez being chased by David Alonso. How many times are we going to say that for the remaining 11 Grand Prix in 2026? Rear end just stepping out slightly there through Woodcote. One of the best corners on the entire calendar. One of the best corners, of course, at this.
Kalau ras kayak gini sih, ngeselin sih.
Be the final corner. What a final corner it was
as well. Gue hilang tiba-tiba, ngeselin sih.
Come out of left field and then open it up through Woodcote.
Kumat lagi kah? Astaga. Enggak kok, masih ada.
Clausen points back that he lost over in Germany.
So Alonso's teammate Dani Holgado, who now leads the way on a 202.386. He's 2/10 clear of Munoz. Will follow Alonso through the final couple of corners. This is going to be his first legal lap. He has done 3 laps already, but the previous 2 were cancelled for one reason or another, and he moves at the moment. As we look on our screens, has that lap time been cancelled as well? Yes, it has. Exceeding track limits. So Alonso's now done 4 laps. One of them are valid. That's at least one thing he'll have to tidy up if to reach Q2 by the end of this 40-minute session.
Yeah, there are plenty of places on the Silverstone circuit. On the exit of Chapel there, you just saw it.
Dering nggak guys?
Touch that. But you can get a late apex there at Stoke.
Macet mulu, Andri, kenapa sih?
At this stage as well, and sometimes that can happen. But yeah, Holgado looking up for this one in practice.
Even on the last lap, I would consider that ambitious. Maybe perhaps he's watching reruns of Assen and his teammate David Alonso going around the outside of Manu Gonzalez into the Gert Timmer chicane. The Vale Club section is not quite as conducive to that as you saw there for Holgado. Here is last year's winner then, Senna Agius, kicking up a bit of dust on the golden brown grass that we have here, the scorched grass on the outside of this Silverstone circuit, which has never known hot weather like it over the last month or so. But Agius is pretty hot himself. You can see there, kicking up a bit more dust as he's trying to find the perfect line into the Vale Club sequence. And we'll find out whether that was a successful line for Senna Agius as he's looking to climb up from 4th place. Doesn't need to find much to move ahead of Mario Aggi. Didn't improve. He stays at the moment in 4th place.
Yeah, that was a bit uncomfortable, judging from our position there. Probably for Senna, it was just another day at the office through the Vale chicane, but maybe a tad wide, kicking up some dust there on the entry, and he did lose time in that final split as well, so clearly didn't help the 81. And there is Danny Munoz then, returning from injury, as mentioned, and looking really good as well. The times have just slowed down a tad after a little bit of a flurry earlier on in the session. There are some personal bests coming in time for Osato, a crasher, of course, down at turn 1, where after contact with Dennis Onchu, a little bit of a racing incident, let's call it. No one, I'd say, really at fault. Just a slight misjudgment, I'd say, on tyre for Osato. Starts to collect the rear wheel of Denis Sanchu. He's about to set a personal best lap time. Senna Aegis has gone through the first split quicker than anyone. So we'll probably lock eyes on Aegis very shortly. Roberts is on a personal best lap time as well. So is Luca Nanetta, and Helper Keras is under a second away through the third split. So riders just chipping away at this. Of course, a lot of them, if not all of them, will be in race rhythm modes and gathering some data for Sunday's Grand Prix. Before time attack mode is properly engaged.
Masih 27 menit. Gue nggak sadar kalau gue lagi nge-live, malah sorry guys, sorry terlalu fokus gue. Habis live chat sepi guys.
Of course, confirmed in the summer break as moving up to MotoGP next season, but noticeable that there wasn't any confirmation of which team he's going to be riding for.
Masih Moto2 ya.
Next season, there have been reports that potentially the reigning Moto2 champion Diogo Moreira might get the factory Honda berth alongside Fabio Quartararo and Mendes being dropped into the LCR box to work with David Alonso. From your point of view, looking at David,
25 menit lagi.
Which of the two teams is in? Would he benefit from being perhaps out of the relative limelight, being in the independent squad, or does he
agak kena angin tuh drone di situ?
I think you can look at it both ways. I think one way of looking at it is, if you go into the LCR setup, Alonso has said himself he's going to get factory support and a factory bike. He said he doesn't really care where he is. He knows both teams, LCR and of course the factory team, are both pretty much factory teams. LCR, of course, vastly experienced and a well-run team. I would say, if you're Alonso's camp, you're going to want the factory seat. Of course you want the factory seat. Get in alongside Fabio Quartararo, work with Santi Hernandez, which I think in either team, as you rightly mentioned, is going to be
macet-macet mulu ya guys ya.
the case anyway.
Gak nyaman banget nontonnya jadinya.
Has their eyes on. So I think, yes, there's going to be more pressure on his shoulders if he is in the factory team, but I think he's going to have a lot of attention no matter where he is. So I think
internetku kenapa ini teman-teman tidak. Aduh. Sebentar gue setting dulu dah. Di sini coba stream.
Set him because Moreira, has done a good job in his rookie campaign. It's a tough decision, an intriguing one. I would say.
Masa aja gue harus ganti server lagi.
2027. If Moreira gets on really well alongside
Tuh ngelek banget guys, anjrit lah.
Fabio Quartararo, then maybe that's going to be
server yang kenceng, coba yang kenceng.
on factory HRC colours, there's no doubt about that. So I think it's an interesting
ini kenceng
decision, a big one.
nih.
I'm a little bit on the fence by it. Not sure what you think, Lewis, but you can sort of see both sides of the argument, can't you, for HRC, whether to take the pressure off Alonso or say to Alonso,
Sama aja server ini macet-macet, anjrit.
what about you?
Yeah, well, from Honda's point of view, it's almost like they've got a winning lottery ticket in one hand and a winning lottery ticket in the other. Well, which one are we going to cash in? They're both pretty good. There is no real
720 aja lagi lah ya.
early on in MotoGP, but let's not forget.
Sama aja bro, Moto2 juga di server ini sama aja. Gangguan, ini berarti gangguan guys. Lagi gangguan teman-teman.
Sure, Honda won't be putting any excess pressure on David Alonso. They know what they're signing.
Anjir 720 loh padahal loh. Masih loading, ini gimana server sih? Coba gue tes speed dulu, tes speed gue. Kenceng kok speed gue guys, kenceng.
And Alonso might well have the tools at their disposal to really deliver next season. Moreira, of course, a Moto2 world champion himself. David Alonso, if something goes his way, and of course it will be foolish to write him off at this early stage, might go into next season himself.
Aman-aman aja ya, aman-aman aja ya.
He certainly will go in as a Moto2 race winner after his victory at the TT circuit Assen earlier on this season. So Honda, I think, they've got to try and sort of play a sort of political game and just try and keep both riders motivated, keep both riders happy. And I think if they do that, then both David Alonso and Diogo Moreira will look forward to strong cruising. And I think it's a very smart move putting Santi Hernandez in the LCR squad, if that's indeed what they're going to do. And there are rumours that that is going to be the case. Of course, worked with Marc Marquez when he first came into MotoGP. Super experienced crew chief, a world championship winning crew chief, and will surely know the very best way to work with a talented, perhaps a naive young hotshot in the form of David Alonso. He's done it before.
I imagine the name mentioned there, Marc Marquez, has also had a say in that, because we know Alonso works very closely, trains with Marc Marquez, as does Diogo Moreira, to be fair. But I'm sure, as you rightly mentioned, Marc Marquez, Santi Hernandez had a fantastic relationship, still do have a fantastic relationship. Marc Marquez has a great relationship still with Honda as well. I'd be very, very surprised if Mark hasn't had a say. Not in terms of this must happen. He's not got that sort of direct dictatorship over Honda, of course not. But he'll have been working in the background, I'm sure, to try and help Alonso, who's going to be his rival next year, of course. So we won't want him to be too quick. Yeah, will Marc Marquez. But I'm sure there's been something in the background to say David's and Honda try and make this happen. If it can happen, make it happen. Because obviously Santi is vastly experienced and has a pedigree of building
Mario aja masih di
stars,
pit lane aja.
Marquez, into race and title winners.
2 menit 2. Mario aja P3 sekarang loh.
Quite sure when the announcement will come in terms of what seats Alonso will be occupying, but an interesting one nonetheless, and we'll get stuck into that more when that is announced, of course.
And before we begin to consider an LCR ride as some sort of consolation prize, which it certainly is not. Right. Let's not forget the last 2 Honda MotoGP victories have both been taken by LCR. Johan Zarco last year at Le Mans, and Alex Rins at Austin, Texas back in 2023. So Honda will certainly give David Alonso, whichever of the 2 teams he's within, they're certainly going to give him the package that he needs to
Colgado masih memimpin ya. 18 menit lagi buat Moto2-nya.
That Alonso is going to be eventually. Of course, he's going to move into MotoGP next year, and he's probably going to be in the top sort of 6 or 7 most prolific Grand Prix winners in the class, isn't he? Because he's already got 20 Grand Prix victories. Of course, the bulk of those have come in Moto3, 18 of them in total. Of course, 2 Moto2
Nah, ini smooth nih servernya nih, lancar.
A serial winner.
Ini kan enak guys.
Junior categories is Alonso. And Honda clearly signing him for the long term because they think he's got the potential to win for them in MotoGP in the future too. We're riding on board there briefly with Manuel Gonzalez, who's been getting acquainted with Celestino Vietti so far on this lap. Vietti's in a hurry. The reason he's in a hurry is because he's currently down in 16th place. And as it stands, still very early stages, so we won't panic on Vietti's behalf too much just yet, but he would be on course for a 4th Q1 appearance of the season, and it would be a 3rd in a row.
Little moment there for Vietti on the
jatuh dia, bro.
chicane as well. This lap time isn't going to take Vietti anywhere inside that top 14. Said a good afternoon to Manu down there at corner as well. Vietti, desperate for a result, lost 50 points in the last 4 races to Gonzalez, has picked up 16 in that time versus Gonzalez's 66, so not the end of the opening part of the season Vietti would have wanted, and compounded by a pretty miserable weekend over at the Sachsenring. So Vietti will have hit the reset button. He says that's what his intention was. Here is the well, relatively small moment. I'm sure it was felt a little bit more on the motorcycle than it looked. A little bit of a bump there on the exit as well, as you're trying to click it up the gearbox, tip it right through club. Riders replaced this morning, still 16.5 minutes to go. A lot can change, a lot will change, I'm sure. But yeah, some riders with a little bit more work to do than anticipated when we came into this session.
Just 2 Boscoscuros at the moment heading through to qualifying 2. That's Ethan Guevara, unsurprisingly. He's often been the top Boscoscuro.
16 menit lagi Moto tuh kelar, teman-teman.
Denis Onchu for the Mark VDS team is currently in 13th place and heading through. Onchu got very up close and personal with this man, Tayo Furusato, in free practice 1 this morning, and it's for that reason why it's not the greatest surprise that we find Furusato down in 26th place. At the moment, he's kind of half a session behind the rest of the field. There has been no information of any sort of investigation into what happened this morning.
Furusato, orang Jepang ini.
One of those things, a bit of a racing incident, even though it didn't take place in a race.
Tefur tuh mana Tefur? Tefur itu di posisi.
And of course, we're talking about 5 timed laps, or 5 laps in total. One of those was
di luar 14 besar ya.
4 time laps he got in. And no real performance to kind of draw upon for Furusato, so playing catch-up on his first Moto2 appearance here at the British Grand Prix is the 72. As his teammates up in 3rd place, Furusato is 3rd from the back.
Yeah, playing catch-up, isn't he, after that crash this morning? Can't really pin blame on either rider. As we mentioned, down at turn 1, getting some nice slow-mo shots through turn 4 of the loop, which is where Barry Bautis is, before you open it up through entry of turn 5 and then fire it down the Wellington straight before you're faced with the famous Brooklands Luffield section, and then it opens back up through Woodcut and into Copse Corner, and then on for the rest of the very famous and wonderful Silverstone circuit. This is turn 1 for Danny Holgado. Fairing just wobbling around slightly there in the wind. A fast and furious opening.
Bagus banget itu kerangkanya.
To the lap.
Chef Moto.
Tayo Furusato crashed a little bit earlier on. This is David Alonso sat in the box and not looking overly pleased, and as you can see there with the dashes through the times, and as we just go lower through it, lap 5, 2:03.371 is his quickest time.
He's done
an only time.
one valid lap all afternoon so far as David Alonso. Talk about making life hard for yourself at the moment after his crash earlier on today. Yeah, it's a wide open circuit.
Waduh, tikungan itu hampir pada jatuh. Chicken itu guys yang mau menuju finish.
It's a momentum circuit, so you naturally do want to try and make the line to
slow corner itu.
You don't want to make it as particularly acute because you're going to lose momentum. You can see the green tarmac on the outside of club corner there that Guevara is very close to. So you'd think with a circuit as wide open as this, which of course Formula 1 visits as well, that it would be rather difficult to exceed track limits. But trust me, they're trying to take every millimetre and every bit of advantage they can. And that is why we're seeing so many riders on the wrong side of track limits so far. So it's pretty clear where David Alonso needs to tidy his game up in the remaining 14 minutes if he is to make his way through to Q2. As it stands, Alonso, 4th in the World Championship, is heading for qualifying 1. Celestino Vietti, 7th in the World Championship, is heading in the same direction as they sit in 17th and 16th place respectively. Alonso, he's been in qualifying 1 on 2 previous occasions this season.
Yeah, and hasn't finished outside the top 3 on the opening day since Mugello when he was P8. He was 2nd in Hungary on Friday, topped it in Brno, topped it at the Dutch Grand Prix, and was third last time out 3 weeks ago, or just over 3 weeks ago, over in Germany. Sign potentially Alonso is just trying a little bit too hard, potentially trying to squeeze a little bit more out of the package than what's potentially there, by exceeding track limits, obviously just estimating what's going on down there in the Alonso camp. Sure, he is going to find time in the closing 12 minutes, but he is running out of time, Alonso, and a couple of mistakes can really cost you more so around here than pretty much anywhere else we go. Sepang, probably the only other circuit in terms of this sort of lap time where one mistake, unlike the Sachsenring where you're doing sort of mid 120s, I think in Moto 2, and sliding across the floor in Moto 2 is Ivan Ortola, our latest race winner.
Ortola down at Stowe Corner, where we've already seen Pedro Costa go down today in MotoGP. Ortola slightly further around the corner by the looks of it in his crash. First of the MSI bikes coming into picture on the number 4 on the front end, just washing away on Ivan Ortola, who's currently sitting in 5th place. So you wouldn't say he's in a precarious position at the moment, but he's in no position now. We're talking about his 100% automatic Q2 record in 2026.
No, yeah, big mistake then. I was mentioning, the point I was trying to make was any small mistake can really cost you here at Silverstone, because the lap is so long. It's just, well, over 2 minute lap time, adds 10 maybe.
Ya sisa 11 menit lagi Moto 2 selesai teman-teman. Agak berasa cepet juga ya.
Circuit does cost you more so than the likes of the Sachsenring, where it's a much shorter track layout. So drama then for Ivan Ortola, P5 as things stand, so not a disaster necessarily, but only 3 tenths away from, well, just a bit more, 4 tenths away from dropping outside of that top 14. Crashing in front of the Lando Norris stand is a rider who is obviously backed and supported by Lando Norris as well.
Yes, that irony won't be lost on Ivan Ortola, who will be hoping now that a 2:02.697 is good enough to send him through to qualifying 2, although I guess you could argue, having crashed now and lost 10 minutes of practice, then 15 minutes of Q1 might not be the worst thing for Ivan Ortola tomorrow. But given that we've seen the likes of Celestino Vietti knocked out in Q1 very recently, I'm sure he won't want to take that risk if he can help it. His teammate Angel Piqueras, who was just behind him, did improve. He's got himself down to a 2:03.502. Piqueras is now up into 18th place. He is just behind Vietti and Alonso, who are our current high-profile names outside Q2.
Slow-mo there of Celestino Vietti. He's now pitted for some fresh rubber, just trying to get a closer look at that front tyre. A little bit of wear there on the right-hand side. Can't obviously see the left-hand side, but this is Vietti in this session, who's just pitted for, as I say, some fresh Pirelli tyres. And so has Manu Gonzalez, P7 as things stand. Teammates and Aegis back out on circuit as well. I'm sure they're lapping pretty closely together. Can't quite see Aegis, probably just a little bit further up the road from his teammates. Obviously 2 title contenders, so the Intact GP team potentially have a bit of a job on their hands in the final 11 races to try and
Mario Aji masih P3 loh guys. Gila, gacor banget Indonesia hari ini.
Has looked comfortable so far this weekend. Not as comfortable as he was in free practice 1, of course, but we'll be, I think, seeing Manu's full potential on a Friday in the next couple of minutes when he goes for his first time attack.
Yeah, only 2 riders, as we mentioned earlier on, did 2:02s this morning. Manu Gonzalez did 3 of them all on his own, and only Barry Baltus squeaking into the 2:02s himself at the end of this morning. Of course, a 2:02 is probably going to be the minimum requirement in this session to make your way through to Q2. Top 12 riders have already got themselves into 2:02s this afternoon. We've got Unchu 13th on a 2:03.0 and Garcia on a 2:03.1. Baltus, another surprise name, you have to say, at the moment.
Nge-slide dia keren banget. Alonso Lopez pakai Gresini Racing Moto 2.
Alonso Lopez into the final sector. Of course, this is one rider who could well get ahead of Ivan Ortola and nudge him a place closer towards qualifying 1. Let's see what kind of lap time this is for Alonso Lopez. And the answer is a
P6 Alonso Lopez.
In fact, he slots
naik dia.
Place behind Ivan Ortola and 0.004 of a
Mario Aji kencang juga loh.
You'd imagine there's more to come from Lopez. Not on
Di sini,
this
guys.
lap time around though, because he runs on at turn 1, collects a little bit of the dust on the grass as well to go with it. But that's the first attempt then for Lopez, just shy of Ortola.
Gacor ini King Indo bangkit kayak ini guys.
Ortola, but I'm sure there's a little bit more in hand.
Tapi baru praktis, lumayan lah. Praktis juga. Yang penting udah aman lolos ke Q2 mereka berdua. Tapi kita belum tahu, Ntar lihat. Masih ada waktu 8 menit lagi ya.
If he keeps it upright and off track limits, he will be rising somewhat towards
Di sini MotoGP.
time and maybe surpassing it as well. This is turn 3 of Village, and then the loop, and then just before you click through turn 5 of H3 is sector 1, so we'll get him through that in a couple of seconds time.
Senna Aegis has lit up the first sector. He's 2/10 up on Danny Holgado at the moment. Gonzalez just 5,000 up, so Aegis certainly with the edge at this stage through sector 1, down the Wellington straight, then towards Brooklands corner.
Oh, jalannya berat banget.
Slightly downhill. As mentioned, there's not a huge
Hitam-hitam garis-garis gitu jalannya, kenapa ya guys ya?
There's one or two slight inclines and declines around this circuit. Gonzalez now making his way out of Luffield corner. Aegis is up the left-hand side for the right-hander of Stoker.
Suka banget lihat Moto 2 nge-slide gini.
Moments ago, and Aegis safely through, and it was around about here last year where the door opened up to a first Moto2 victory for him when Alonso Connect went head-to-head and Aegis slipped through the back door to take a first Moto2 victory. Is he going to put alongside that an all-time lap record? Across the line he goes, and Senna Aegis has yet to register. He's keeping us all waiting. His transponder is playing games with us. It now registers a 2:01.910, and that is a new all-time lap record. Worth the wait.
Exactly, worth the wait. 2:01.9.
2 menit 1,9 Agius.
Around Silverstone on a
Namanya keren banget,
Agius.
Agus. Tapi tambahin I, Agius aja.
Final corner, club corner for Gonzalez. Keeps it on the straight and narrow, but loses time in that final split. A really good last bit, actually, wasn't it, for Senna Aegis? Gained a couple of tenths. Manu Gonzalez losing a couple of tenths. So the top 2 is intact GP here at Silverstone, which is good news for the team. They'll enjoy that. Gonzalez won't enjoy seeing a 3/10 gap to Aegis, so that's somewhat turned.
Elah, macet lagi, bro.
The tables in practice compared to FP1. Bautis again, not quite in the realms of where he was earlier on in terms of being close to the top time. He was second early on, 6th today.
Bisa nge-slide tapi nggak jatuh.
Benar-benar
masih nempel banyak.
So far for Bautis upon his injury
Ban
return.
depan diandelin penuh banget.
Ivan Ortola now down to 7th place. That could soon become 8th because here comes Alex Escreech on the forward bike. The number 11 hits the line and climbs 10 places. He now moves up behind the Locomotive Dynavolt Intact GP pair. They're 1 and 2, and Escreech now on a 2:02.277 takes 3rd place.
Yeah, Scridge then, good lap time. We're used to seeing this on a Friday from Scridge, aren't we? Can't quite hook it up on a Sunday as things stand for Alex Scridge, who we do believe is going to be on the move next year, potentially switching Clint Racing colours to Ital Trans Racing colours. The Moto2 field musical chairs will be confirmed in the coming weeks. Looking forward to that one. Tara Ferrasato just cruising
Mario Aji turun ke P5 guys.
Hanger straight. He's got some fast riders up ahead of him. Dennis Onchu being one of those. Those two came into contact a little bit earlier on, didn't they? Sergio Garcia.
4 menit lagi kita lihat.
Sergio Garcia, but he is still half a second, just under half a second away through the second split. He is P15, so he's the chief chaser in terms of trying to get into that top 14 as things stand.
Yeah, Garcia went through the shortcut at Chapel onto the Hanger Straight, so his lap time has gone away. Any improvements that has come across the line? Now Huertas has moved up, but he's in 22nd place.
Rantainya emas ya.
Rueda was one of those riders we saw trying to pick up some slipstream on the Hanger Straight. The 2025 Moto3 winner here at the moment is down in 21st. Gonzalez improves again. He still can't get within 3.5 tenths of his teammate Aegis. This was the fun and games coming onto Hanger Straight as Ferrasato's already shaking his head and taking to the shortcut. Was that Huertas up ahead? Well, Huertas went a personal best, so it wasn't as if he was holding Ferrasato. But this Friday at Silverstone just not coming together for the Japanese.
No, it's certainly not.
3 menit lagi guys.
Third split. He's just in this pack behind Danny Holgado. Holgado's on a personal best lap time, or was anyway. Can't quite see his split time. Maybe he's made a mistake or his lap time's gone away. No, that's the reason why, because he's level begging with Senna Aegis through the third split. Aegis had a cracking final split. What's Holgado got?
We'll find out in just a couple of seconds' time. The 96 MotoGP bound and now top in this session. He goes down to a 2:01.815, a 10th clear of Aegis. Connect moves up into the top 14. He's knocked his teammate out. So one Mark VDX rider replaces another in Q2 at the moment. Connect up to 14th place. David Alonso, who's in a pack with Kinet at the moment. Still not able to get himself into the 202s. Alonso's improved, but he's still P19. He needs to find minimum a couple of tenths.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds away from his teammate now. David Alonso wasn't expecting to see that on a circuit he's had so much success at in the past in Moto 3 and in Moto 2, but struggling here today is David Alonso. Senna Aegis just ahead of Ayumi Sasaki. Sasaki on a personal best lap time, the Japanese rider.
Langsung dibanting belok paksain.
He'll be jumping into
2 menit lagi guys.
Of Ivan Ortola. That's why we're focusing in on Sasaki. He might be 7 tenths
Sasaki
away from the all-time
P22
record, but there's still a good lap time, or was a good lap time coming in for Sasaki. Lost a lot of time though in that final split.
Sergio Garcia
Remains outside.
Vietti masuk Q2. Garcia masuk Q2. Mario Aji sekarang P7 turun.
Celestino Vietti moves into the top 10, so an important lap time.
Semoga Mario Aji lolos Q2 teman.
He'll consider himself still a title
Biar kompak nih, dua-duanya lolos Q2 nih.
World Championship, a big weekend and a big lap time there for Vietti.
Yeah, Vietti and Vaya are both in qualifying too, it's fair to say at the moment, so they're both heading the same way, although Vaya is in a much more precarious position at the moment in 14th. Guevara's gone 5th with yellow flags now waving, so that might have been a crucial lap at a crucial time for Ethan
Sektor 3 ada yang jatuh guys.
Yellow flags out at turn 3, which is on the run into Village Corner.
Moto 2 mah dia posisi motor half lane angel, tapi ngeremnya masih bisa kenceng ya guys ya, nggak low set loh, tapi hati-hati banget itu bang, pasti kesempatan low setnya lebih besar itu kalau nggak hati-hati breaknya. 1 menit lagi guys. Olgado kencang banget ini. Aduh, final cornernya jelek.
He is cruising into Q2 and probably in P1 as well. Holgado, the only rider within 2 tenths of a second of Danny Holgado here in practice this afternoon.
Lap record 2 menit 1,3 coba.
Over. And as Lewis rightly mentioned, he has now got a nervous wait. Here he is then on the 21, just ahead of Adrian Huertas, a little bit wide. So a little bit offline for Lopez, trail breaking it into turn 3 and the front
lagi slow corner jatuhnya, trail breaking. Ini kayak Lecona beloknya orang. Johnny Roberts.
Like that. Let's see how much time Roberts has lost in the final sector. He loses enough to drop him out of the top 14. 17th for Roberts, a 2:02.994 is not enough. Trying to keep an eye on David Alonso. He's a 1.5 seconds down at the halfway stage, so David Alonso for sure is heading through qualifying too.
Disaster for Alonso outside that top 20 then on Friday here. Lap cancelled once again. It's been a real problem for Alonso in this Friday afternoon
udah habis
session.
Waktunya ya.
Gak
sabar gue nunggu MotoGP nih. 35 menit bang.
Holgado's time was good in that final split, but a lot of riders
Holgado masih memimpin
through Chapel, through 13 and 14. 14 is Chapel, down the hanger straight into Stowe, then the Vale chicane and Club Corner is where they're potentially finding it a little bit more difficult. Alonso has found it difficult to not exceed track limits, and he's got no time left on the clock either. So really disappointing day for Alonso after disappointing way to enter the summer break with a crash over in Germany. It's not started too well either, unfortunately.
Yeah, in fairness to Alonso, his last lap might well have been due to the Alonso Lopez yellow flags, but the bulk of his sessions have been a case of too much green tarmac, unfortunately for David Alonso. It's not the Friday.
Gabut aja gue pengen sambil stream nonton kayak beginian.
And then fought for the win here until the very last.
Ya elah. Ya Allah, malah loading ini.
For free practice track at 20 to 10 tomorrow morning for their free practice 2 session. So Moto 2 will be
tikungan chickennya bener-bener lambat banget sih. Itu sampai 60, kecepatannya 60 km per jam kayaknya guys.
Will be taking place between the
Come on man. Umat lagi. Pakai server old coba. Server yang jadul. Nggak bisa guys, bisanya ini doang.
22nd place. We've got Tony Arbolino in 15th place. He's a 12th in the World Championship.
Tony Arbolino,
so in terms of
15th
the point
place.
situation, he's the next highest rider in the World Championship who's not in qualifying 2. But it's Danny Holgado who has sealed top spot. And upstage, the intact GP duo who were at various stages through the day have looked like they've had the edge on the
Kelar
field.
Moto2, Holgado fastest. Mario Aji lolos ya ke Q2 ya. 2 rider Indonesia lolos ke Q2 guys. Let's go.
Into the new bracket in Moto2.
The
second one is Seneragius on your screens. Great job from the number 81. Potentially fresh off signing a contract for MotoGP next year. That'll be confirmed in due course, of course. But what Senna has got to focus on in the present is trying to fight for this Moto2 title, and a long way to go, of course, but Friday has started pretty well for the Australian. Not so well for a certain number 80 there, though, as we've mentioned, for Alonso, but I'm sure he'll be looking at the 96s data this evening and trying to learn a thing or two for the new all-time lap record holder here at Silverstone.
Stay within the confines of the racetrack might be one of them. Be very interesting when we get the PDF at the end of the session with the lap-by-lap analysis to see just how many legal laps David Alonso did this afternoon. He'd be able to count them on one hand.
MotoGP siapa yang lolos ke Q2 guys? Dia Marquez, Alex, Pedro, Jorge Martin, Pecco Bagnaia, Johan Zarco, tebakan aja tebakan. Siapa lagi ya? Fabio Quartararo lolos ke Q2. Apa lagi ya? Fermin, Aldiguer. Dua lagi rider yang lolos ke Q2 siapa? Marco Bezzecchi, Fabio Di Gianantonio. Wah, tebakanku itu guys. 10 rider yang lolos ke MotoGP teman. Yang lolos ke Q2. Ya udah selesai. Ban depannya bergetar, itu goyang-goyang kenapa? Oke, MotoGP sekarang waktunya teman-teman. Itu literally bagian ban motor ujungnya doang yang kena aspal, bagian tengahnya ngambang semua anjir. Gokil sih. Okay, we're going to MotoGP teman. Udah masuk.
Chapter 12 in what is turning out to be a classic MotoGP title fight, bringing the contenders to Silverstone for the Grand Prix of Great Britain. Silverstone rejoined the calendar 16 years ago and been built on the site of a Royal Air Force base back in the late 1940s.
Mungkin gara-gara gue sambil nge-live ya, jadi rada-rada burik.
Practice is next live. It's time for MotoGP.
For MotoGP. Oke, saatnya guys MotoGP praktis guys. 10 besar yang bakal lolos ke Q2 section. Fabio Quartararo 2025 tahun kemarin, fastest lap, top speednya 340, tikungannya ada 18, tikungan kiri 8, tikungan 10 kanan.
This is a real test of rider and machine around this Silverstone track. The lap starting through Abbey corner, that first corner, then a long sweep, the fast sweeping left-hander through
turn 2. Yang cukup bikin capek itu sektor 1.
Section through sector 3 before you come down hard on the brakes in the turn 15. Stowe corner, which caught out Pedro Acosta this morning, and it's 9, 6 and 15.
High tire stress zone. All right.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome back to the British Grand Prix. A warm welcome back to Silverstone, to a gloriously sunny United Kingdom, which has been the story.
Jam 10 ya.
Thankfully for the last
5 or 6
kelar jam 11
kurang ini mah MotoGP mah.
as we have been basking in some seemingly endless sunshine for a good number of
Besok juga
weeks
T-shot sprint kayak gini bikin ya. T-shot sprint gue bakal bikin kayak gini. Buat Q2-nya juga T-shot sprintnya. Kayaknya sprint race-nya aja deh guys. Q2-nya gue nggak bakal bikin. Besok-besoknya lagi juga gue nggak dari praktis sih, dari sprint race doang sama race-nya ya. Kalau misalkan gue mulai dari praktis session terlalu boring kayaknya. Terlalu boring banget.
Alex Marquez, the Gresini racing rider. We know how Alex really does love and come on strong at fast-flowing circuits like Mugello, like Sepang, like Barcelona. Well, this one right up the Spaniard street. He led the way this morning with a 1:58.692. One of three riders Alex was to find laps in the 58s this morning, including rather impressively and rather encouragingly was our former world champion leader, factory of pretty start Marco Bezzecchi, back after a wretched recent run. Bez without a single Sunday point in the last 4 Grand Prix. Well, he was second fastest, fresh off the back of recent surgery on a knee and a fractured left collarbone he suffered in a Q2 crash over in Germany just before the summer break. Second quickest was Bez ahead of Pedro Acosta, who was our
Loh, masa buka ini doang nggak boleh sih?
P1 session, the Spaniard crashing out unhurt at turn 15, and when he remounted his factory KTM he was third quickest, the last of that trio in the 58s. Ralph Fernandez, Fabio de Gian Antonio, Marc Marquez, the reigning world champion,
Alex,
the world champion leader, Frankie Morbidelli and Pecco Bagnaia, they were your top
Klasemennya posisi 9 sekarang.
This afternoon will be those 10 riders.
Apa sih Alex?
Certainly hoping to repeat his brilliant performance of this morning. Well, it was Alex Marquez. Talking you through all of the action on this sun-kissed Friday afternoon in early August here in Great Britain.
Ancur banget hidungnya si Alex ya. Bener tulang ininya hidungnya sampai ujung sini anjir mantungnya.
Alex Marquez looked in fantastic nick this morning. Set an early 1:58.692 on lap 7 of 17, and from that point onwards, nobody really saw which way he went. We'll pick it up on Alex's excellent start to this British Grand Prix very, very shortly. Honda in the headlines in the summer break. The imminent arrival of Fabio Quartararo into the factory team next year. Who will be alongside him? David Alonso or Diogo Moreira? Well, one man who'll be in.
Oh, Marco Bezzecchi udah balik ya. Gue baru tahu nih, dia udah comeback nih. Marco Bezzecchi guys. Oke, kita lihat dia bisa dapat berapa nih. Udah perform lagi dia, udah sembuh.
Already a MotoGP world champion. How exciting a signature is that?
Well, you know, Fabio is as you say, is a world champion, and yeah, this is going to happen.
Sponsornya Qatar Airways.
One of the fastest rider in the grid.
Sponsor yang biasa dipakai di ini apa namanya?
We are happy for it, but at the same time,
Lozail. Ini Lozail terancam batal ini.
Grateful for the job that Joan and Luca did.
Buset, bawa bir itu,
because they helped us
damn, bro.
Our bikes, and we have to thank them for all the efforts.
Paul Espargaro juga ikut ya di sini ya, Paul Espargaro ya. Bukan cuma jadi reporter, dia ikut wildcard kayaknya guys. Pedro Acosta rambutnya mulai panjang belakangnya, buset, kayak landak dia bang.
Fabio has also spoken about his hunger to get back to where he feels he belongs at the top of the World Championship. Do you feel that there's a meeting of mindsets between the two of you that can make it a really successful partnership?
Oh, dia jatuh pagi ini. Tikungan 15.
In this paddock, everybody is hungry.
Di praktisnya Pedro jatuh, guys.
I mean, of course, the target is only one. Let's be clear. But the target sometimes you cannot achieve it. But there's only one goal, and for sure for Fabio and for Honda, the target is to come back and try to get on the top. This is clear.
And it's obvious you've signed one of the stars of the future in David Alonso as well. Just firstly, how difficult was it to sign David? Because I'm sure there was a lot of interest in him. And what do you think he can bring to Honda next year?
Well, first of all, he's young. So as we said in the past with Moreira, these guys, the first year, we cannot expect a lot from them. They need time to
Rambut si
understand
Jorge
the
Martin
class.
juga udah panjang. Ini habis libur panjang, musim panas.
A challenging
Pada
year for him.
hitam-hitam badannya.
And I mean, but as you say, he proved.
Silverstone is one of 6
speed last
circuits
year.
in
This
the
year
rest
is
of
coming
Aprilia
a little bit difficult at
that
this
he
moment,
is
but we believe
racing
he can catch
for
up
the
and,
first time with
he will
Aprilia.
be, I think, an important rider for the future.
No confirmation of what
Semua
team
sirkuit
he'll be
nggak sih?
in next year.
For the
Why is
start
that?
for
Why
the
did you
Aprilia,
not confirm
Jorge
where he'll be
Martin.
riding?
Well, we are still waiting and there's not a
24 poin
real why yet.
selisihnya
But
dari top
we will soon know
gap
about it.
rider
You've got a deadline
11
on when
round
that
in the modern
decision is
era
going to be made?
MotoGP. 5 rider
normally
papan
no, but it
atas,
will be soon.
selisih gapnya
Well, thanks for your time,
tipis-tipis guys.
Alberto. An exciting future for Honda.
Siapa aja bisa memimpin
Thank you very
balapan.
much.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks as always to HRC boss Alberto Puig. Yes, very much a French flavour in one half of HRC next year, with Fabio Quartararo moving in alongside Joan Zarco, and a very South American flavour as well to Honda's quartet next season, as they'll be represented by both Brazil and Colombia, with Diogo Moreira and David Alonso.
1 menit lagi
Quartet for Honda fans
atau 1 menit 50 detik
in 2027.
bakal dimulai praktisnya
As we were
teman-teman.
alluding to before,
Ini dia Marc
Jack
Marquez.
did an interview with Alberto on Honda's future.
Itu
Lewis,
siapa mirip Alex Marquez.
Oh, he looked in fantastic form this morning. What a way to return from the summer break. Almost 2/10 of a second clear.
Banyak
of the
fans
chase.
Marquez
In fact,
di
we know
Silverstone.
this layout, fast-flowing circuit is where Alex tends to come into his own. Didn't let us down this morning, did he?
Fast-flowing circuit where a lot of those fast-flowing corners are to the right, which we know from Marc Marquez is certainly an area that Alex appears to be stronger even than Marc over the years. So yes, without question, Alex Marquez arriving at a circuit that suits his style, and he certainly lived up to billing with that 158
Forza Pedro
earlier on this morning. As we've sort of been seen in 2026, it was a top 10 that was made up of entirely Aprilias and Ducatis, with the exception of Pedro Acosta.
And there is
Masih
one
ada
very,
fans
very
Rossi
big Pedro
juga itu.
Acosta fan by the looks of it.
Masih pensiun masih ada yang
Shark
itu
banner.
guys.
Pedro Acosta
Pakai bajunya.
growing fans all around the world for his aggressive, all-out attacking
Udah lama
riding style.
banget
Really
padahal
looking forward to seeing him on that factory
Banyak Rossi
Ducati
pensiun.
in 2027
Berapa
and
tahun
beyond.
tuh?
Well, the Aprilia Challenge this morning was led by Marco Bezzecchi, Davide Brivio, current Superfar Trackhouse MotoGP team boss. Of course, he'll be moving over to Honda. He'll be very much having a big part to play in Fabio Quartararo and David Alonso's transition into that project. She's having a little bit of a chin wag with Aprilia Racing CEO Massimo Rivola. Paolo Bonora and Fabiano Sterlachini must be very, very happy with what they saw in particular.
Udah mulai guys.
Marco Bezzecchi this morning, Lewis. Very impressive.
Practice
return to
section
action
MotoGP
after a real
sekarang.
brutally tough period. Still not back to his peak physical best, but most importantly this morning, he was
Motor
fast.
skin si satelit Aprilianya masih hitam.
Trying to rebuild Marco Bezzecchi's confidence again, which looked impenetrable when he won the Italian Grand Prix and had a World Championship lead, which he would have been focused on extending up to the summer break. He lost that championship lead altogether, of course, with a variety of issues, which saw him score nothing on a Sunday in the last 4 Grand Prix. But yeah, a Friday morning that I think he would have been very pleased with, even if he did look slightly weary when he climbed off that factory Aprilia. It's going to be a weekend of managing the physical reserves for Marco Bezzecchi and trying to get out of here with as many points as he can, whether that's 37 or whether it's something slightly less than that. Bezzecchi is in a stage where he just needs to start rebuilding his confidence and rebuilding that points total again.
MotoGP at a sunny Silverstone doesn't really get much better than this. You love to see it. This is one of the most spectacular tracks on the entire Grand Prix calendar.
Peko bisa nggak dilolos gitu ya nih?
Universally liked by
Agak-agak
all riders.
meragukan
One
si
of the
Peko
few
guys.
tracks on the current 22-round series where you really do get to unleash the
1 jam ya praktisnya ya, buset lama banget.
5 breathing MotoGP bike, fast, it's flowing, lots of hard
1 jam bro MotoGP ternyata. Oh iya
18 corners,
lama
9
banget
6
guys.
kilometers in length. Hard to nail a perfect clean lap but when you do, it must be one of the best feelings on top of any motorcycle on planet Earth. Pecco Bagnaia, well, he was 10th quickest this morning. Another Italian in recovery mode after a rather surprise arm pump operation during the summer break. I guess a mid 159, less than a second off Alex Marquez, just breaking himself back into the action gently this morning.
Selisih 2 tahun sama gua anjir.
Yeah, and Bagnaia is not generally a rider who goes for Friday morning headlines even when he's feeling fully fit. He generally only does
jadi pembalap.
First session of the weekend on a single set of tyres. There were riders up
jadi apa? Jadi streamer.
Including this man Ralph Fernandez who did put some fresh rubber on either front and rear or
di sini ya, gue tebak ya. Aprilia bakal gacor.
So I think would have been more than happy.
Aprilia bakal gacor di sini, gue jamin.
Yes, he was a second adrift of Alex Marquez, but Bagnaia doesn't turn up to Grand Prix weekends looking to make headlines on a Friday morning.
Fast and slow sirkuitnya. Ada sih yang sirkuit yang sektor berapa itu? Bagian sirkuit yang pelan ada. Sektor 4 juga ada yang pelan. Sektor 1 ada yang pelan.
Our most recent winner around this Silverstone circuit, of course, he was over 5 seconds clear.
Kemarin si Fabio Quartararo dia mampu ini loh fight, bahkan dia sempat memimpin jauh jaraknya, malah motornya rusak kan.
His first victory since the German Grand Prix in 2022, a winless streak which has
1996 ya, hampir 30 tahun.
And that would have ended the run of different winners that we've had here at Silverstone, which it was extended to 11 by Mark. To the point that both, I think, Quartararo and Yamaha have accepted that it was time for a change.
Yeah, there was a lot of riders yesterday when they were asked who could maybe continue and extend this long-running different winning sequence.
Join 40 tahun Kalo ternyata baru 1985 dia lahirnya. 40 tahun ternyata masih megang motor 1000 cc, gila. Ini anaknya nih.
An experience that he's going to savor every second of, an unlikely home Grand Prix experience. There's his daughter Willow observing the action. Yeah, Willow, we can see you enjoying the action inside the LCR garage. Looking all very cool there with the Oakley sunglasses. As Dad powers himself down the Hanger Straight, he's powered himself to Parc Fermé before as well at Silverstone 10 years ago. Crutchlow was on the box here back in 2016 from pole position. I think it's fair to say, highly unlikely that he's going to repeat that brilliant performance. But I think one last hurrah in front of his home crowd. I don't think anybody's going to begrudge him that, Lewis.
Yeah, this is just a weekend for Cal Crutchlow to enjoy racing around surely his favourite circuit on the MotoGP calendar and in front of his home fans. Once again, said he'd need 22 miracles to win this weekend when he was asked yesterday. Cal Crutchlow, I think if he could just see the checkered flag and enjoy the opportunity of racing at home again, he'll go home a very happy man. We've already had a very fast pace to start this afternoon session. This morning, Alex Marquez topped the morning session on a 58.692. Already, Jorge Martin has gone a quarter of a second quicker than that. Straight away, Martin's 58.4 is the fastest lap time of the day.
Silverstone, one of the key reasons why Cal Crutchlow was able to enjoy such a successful MotoGP career, ultimately because it was right here back at the World Superbike Battle in 2010 where he claimed a double victory, and that basically secured him his Tech 3 seat with Yamaha in MotoGP. So he's got a lot to thank Silverstone for, although there has been a few painful experiences down the years. Cal was joking at the London pre-event press conference that he said that he's very au fait with the
management.
He's had some great moments, some big career highlights around Silverstone, but it's fair to say on occasion this British Grand Prix venue has bitten him back.
Yeah, it's fair to say that Cal Crutchlow gives it absolutely everything. Well, he gives it everything anywhere, but particularly in front of his home crowd, he will go as far as
tikungan ini susah banget sih, gue juga kesusahan tikungan itu. Nah, cepat, disuruh gigi 6 terus disuruh break, terus ketemu tikungan cepat kanan, kiri, kanan, kiri lagi. Sektor 3 itu tadi.
As we've already touched upon, that thrilling battle for the podium, which ultimately Cal Crutchlow won.
Marc Marquez towing Alex Marquez. Kok bentukan sirkuitnya jadi beda kelihatannya ya sama yang di game ya. Beda banget guys. Jorge Martin jadi referensi lapnya. Raul Fernandez sekarang jadi referensi lapnya 1 menit 58.273. Kita on board pakai Marc Marquez.
We're already getting some pretty impressive lap times here. There's been a bit of rubber laid down throughout the course of this opening day here at Silverstone, and it's coming into effect. Ralf Fernandez on just his 3rd lap of the session, so in effect
itu baru tuh belakangnya punya si Alex Marquez. Aneh lagi itu bentukannya.
He's pretty much 8/10 of a second quicker than anything he managed this morning. Enjoying the fact that
gol.
he's up to in 27
Lebar
and 28, having re-up with the super
lebih pendek ya lurusannya.
It's Aprilia 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Fernandez, Martin, Bezzecchi, the other Aprilia of Ayagura currently in 17th place as we rode on board there with the world champion Marc Marquez, and I guess this is one circuit where Marc might be more than happy to follow Alex and let younger brother show him round.
Bit of a head shake there going through Woodcock for Enea Bastianini as he attacked then towards Copse. 3 riders this morning were in the 158s. Well, already we haven't even had 10 minutes of this afternoon's practice session, and we have 7 riders in the 58s. That's 7. Fernandez, Martin, the world champion leader, Bezzecchi, as Lewis mentioned, rounding out that all the pretty top 3. Marc Marquez 4th. Binder 5th, had a strong start to
Raul Fernandez fastest guys.
This morning, and Jack Miller is the 7th rider that's broken into those 50
Raul
this afternoon.
Every rider with the exception of Toprak in currently in 20th place are on
Marquez masih belum lebar dia.
Soft front as Marc Marquez sails wide there into Stowe corner. A bit of a split for rear tyre at the moment. We've got Morera, we've got Morbidelli, Fernandez, Lecuona, Didier Bagnaia, Alex Marquez, Agura and Marc Marquez on the medium rear tyre at the moment. Everyone else is currently out there on the soft rear. Here's Alex Marquez taking his medium rear back to top spot.
Alex Marquez fastest sekarang 1 menit 58.201. Pakai ban depan hard, belakang medium guys. Masih ban-ban normal itu. Coba kalau pakai ban medium atau soft medium. Ada yang jatuh.
I don't think he's crashed, but he has ran through the gravel trap. This is Marc Marquez, and that's why he went wide. It wasn't just a run on into Stowe, it was very nearly worse.
Yeah, Pedro Acosta, his future factory Ducati teammate, has already been on the floor into Stowe this morning. Marc almost joined him there. Cat-like reflectors once again coming to the rescue of the 33-year-old Spaniard.
Hampir jatuh si Marc Marquez, tapi di save sama dia. Hampir low set kayaknya.
Marquez already has on that Ducati GP26. That flung him to that 158.201. So it's pretty much as you were this morning. Alex Marquez versus the rest around Silverstone.
It was Frankie Morbidelli who went through the gravel trap in the back of the picture, which brought out those brief yellow flags. Clearly just ran on, overshot Abbey turn 1 and had to go through the grass and the gravel, which are pretty much the same colour given how scorching hot it's been at Silverstone over the last month or so, but Morbidelli has continued.
So there is Fabio Di Gianantonio, P5 this morning, 5th place so far this afternoon as well. He's got Marco Bezzecchi for company, as though to now will bank it hard right, the short one out of club to the finish line. There you can see just how short that sweep is to the checker flag here. Over 10 laps tomorrow at 4 p.m. local time will be the sprint. 20 laps the full distance Grand Prix here on Sunday as we pick up Fernandez, looking super good once again. You can see him there starting to go through the gearbox, left boot operating the gear shifter. 3rd place for Raul, that's where he stays. Still doing very impressive low 158s on that new hard front, new medium.
Masih Alex Marquez memimpin teman-teman.
Eye-catching start to practice for the number 25.
Yeah, trend that we saw in pre-practice.
Alex Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi, Raul Fernandez, Pedro Acosta, Jorge Martin, Di Antonio, Enea Bastianini, Jack Miller, Marc Marquez, Brad Binder yang lolos ke Q2 sementara ya. Masih lama waktunya teman-teman, tenang aja. Aprilia kelihatannya makin kesini makin ceper motornya, kenapa sih?
So that's where Alex Marquez, it would appear at this stage, is winning a lot of his time over the rest.
So Factory Aprilia versus Factory Aprilia on screens at the moment as Martin goes into cops and he'll start charging, winding up the power, then to the spectacular, the wonderful change direction at high speed through
Ya elah.
Boss Michele Massini, Jack.
Yeah, he is indeed. And as you guys in the commentary box were saying this morning, there are just some circuits on the calendar, Michele, where Alex walks in on a Thursday and this air of confidence just exudes around him. Jerez, Barcelona, Sepang, and I feel the fourth one is Silverstone from what we're seeing so far.
Yeah, you're right, but
Di Antonio
I'm happy
bikin lambat.
also that after 3 weeks of recovery also from the injury at the shoulder, Alex come back here in the best shape.
Di Antonio ngapain sih di situ? Orang Barco BCC lagi hot lap ya. Malah ngehalangin.
Is good so far to be a great weekend again.
After what happened last year,
Kenapa Rider VR46 ini gak Morbidelli, gak di Antonio sama aja, coy. Ngalang-ngalangin orang yang lagi hot lap.
We have the potential. We know that we have the potential here in Silverstone. More.
Kira dia balapan sendirian kah di track? Kalau di game udah kena long lap penalti itu langsung tanpa peringatan. Impeding katanya.
Especially in the last part of the sprint and the race, because we sometimes struggle a bit the last laps, but anyway we have a strong potential with Alex.
And he's spoken as well about the situation being so different this year to last year. He's held his hands up and said,
itu yang nyala-nyala di itu apa ya? Ada di sini nyala-nyala lampu itu. Kayaknya yang buat nyatet lap time-nya, guys.
You guys can almost be the joker card, playing without any pressure, without any expectation, and just going out and enjoying each weekend.
Yeah, I hope so. And to be honest, I think that Alex, since the beginning of last year, reached this maturity to think about only to the result, and I think that from here till the end we can make a great second half of the season.
And just finally, as the guy said, no Firmino, unfortunately. You said coming into the weekend he'll be starting to get back onto two wheels next week. Just talk us through the timeline.
Ducati sini bisa kenceng.
We'll see him at Aragon.
Yeah, we are very positive
Aprilia
to see Fermin back in Aragon at his 100%. It's true that now he's
Yamaha harusnya juga bisa sih.
And made a normal life.
Corner speednya kalau Yamaha masih bagus bisa di sini.
We keep in touch with him every day with the team because to enjoy the bike, enjoy the MotoGP in a completely different racetrack comparing to Hungary.
Yeah, very different racetrack to Hungary. Hope it's a good weekend. Hope for Iker it's just as successful as Hungary, Michele. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, from Balaton to Great Britain, a very different challenge indeed for Iker Lecuona. Great to see him given the opportunity once again at Gresini Ducati. We send our well wishes once again to Fermin Aldeguer. We expect him to be back in action at the end of August at Motorland Aragon. But yeah, there's a sort of quiet air of confidence, isn't there, in Gresini about Alex Marquez's.
Kenapa dah servernya dah?
Running a hot pace behind brother Mark when he crashed out early on at that final corner. Really should have been his first double podium of 2026 for Alex last time out of the Saxon. That was one that got away. We were hoping that it doesn't get away from him after such a strong Friday so far here at Silverstone.
Already a bit of a pattern emerging through a session and a quarter here at Silverstone this morning. Your top four was Alex Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi, Pedro Acosta and Raul Fernandez. And although the third and fourth of those have swapped positions, they are the same top four at the moment. Alex Marquez on a 58.2, a fraction ahead of Bezzecchi and Fernandez, with Acosta around about 2/10 off in fourth place. Then we have Martin, the championship leader, fifth. Di Gianantonio sixth. Bastianini's made a big step.
44 menit lagi, guys.
By 1.3 seconds to take what is currently seventh. Jack Miller currently the leading Yamaha.
Aku habis jogging malah nggak lapar ya. Kenyang terus.
He's found 1.6 seconds to take eighth ahead of Mark seconds to take what is currently 7th. Jack Miller currently the leading Yamaha.
Jack Miller masuk loh, 10 besar loh.
Miller, he's found 1.6 seconds to take 8th ahead of Marc Marquez and
Yamaha satelit loh.
Some good news for fans of this magnificent Silverstone circuit. Of course, yesterday it was confirmed in what's been a series of breaking news over recent weeks. The British Grand Prix
Ya, kenapa macet-macet mulu dah guys dah.
will stay at Silverstone for 2027 and for 2028. And while we're getting a look at our Buriram Grand Prix winner this year, as Marco Bezzecchi just stretches out that left arm, easing the pain from the recent surgery of the left collarbone, the left shoulder, the left knee as well.
Bezzecchi kesakitan tangan
He has
kirinya.
had the sort of 3-4 week layoff after Germany, but he has not been able to conduct anything like his normal training regime in the summer break. A summer break that was completely the opposite to what he was hoping for. I'm just about to mention Marco Bezzecchi was the Buriram Grand Prix winner earlier on the season, and our season in 2027, the new 850cc era, the new Pirelli tyre era, will once again kick off for the 3rd year in a row. Thailand, the Chang International Circuit, will have the honour of hosting our opening Grand Prix. A date for your diary if you're not already penciled in. March the 5th, 6th, 7th will be the opening to the 2027 MotoGP.
Ya, serverku kenapa ini macet coy. Bentar, ini masih macet soalnya, sorry. Yang penting laptopnya masih kelihatan kan? Dari servernya guys, dari servernya.
Hello, I'm Shovel and well.
Bentar gue reset server dulu. Alex Marquez loh, masih memimpin loh. Ini adalah sirkuit yang memang nggak pernah ada yang menang secara beruntun. Selalu berganti-ganti ya. Soalnya Lorenzo tahun berapa itu aku lupa. 2013 sama berapa ya? Itu pun terpisah.
And flying the flag quite literally
Udah
there.
ada lagi guys.
For Great Britain these days is Cal Crutchlow, an opportunity to not only ride in front of his home fans again, but to ride for Lucio Cecchinello, who's had such a huge role in Cal Crutchlow's career. They've kind of played a big role in each other's Grand Prix lives, haven't they, over the last 10 or 12 years or so. Cal Crutchlow that secured the first victory for Lucio Cecchinello when he took that first win back at Renault in 2016. Of course, he's backed that up with a couple more in the time that passed since then. They've been a huge part of each other's stories over the years, and Cal Crutchlow, even at the age of 40, I think will relish the opportunity to have one more chance to put these fire-breathing MotoGP bikes through their paces at this of all circuits.
Not looking like 2026 is going to be a farewell campaign for the rider on screens right now. Luca Marini finally rep the factory Honda into Brooklands. It does look like he's won the race to join Regis in the Tech 3 KTM project next year. Gunther Steiner confirming to Jack this morning.
Joan Mir mana ya?
His preferred option is
kelihatan Joan Mir.
for a rookie talent next year, which is why he looks like he's going for the highly regarded.
Kenapa nggak mau towing sih Luca Marana? Tuh sektor 2 abu-abu dirimu. Jelas sektor 2-nya Honda tuh di tikungan yang nanggung-nanggung gitu, ban belakangnya nggak, powernya nggak termaksimalkan, dia nge-slide banget. Bawahnya pengen keluar mulu ban belakangnya.
About the Tech 3 lineup next year, but as we so often say, when there's rumours around, there's no smoke without fire. It does look like Aegis and Marini are the two names that will be at Tech 3 KTM next year.
Yeah, Honda that Marini's currently riding looks a bit of a handful there on his inlet. Look at the spinning quite a lot. Marini's on his way up pit lane. It's Marini in 14th place, looking to avoid what has become quite a familiar trip through qualifying one for Marini in 2026. 11 Grand Prix have gone so far. Marini has been through Q1 in 10 of them. Bike in 2026. The problem is for them, Aprilia in particular,
ngelek servernya guys.
Step forward, and they've been kind of detached a little bit as the third or fourth, with Pedro Costa giving KTM some lofty results. Third or fourth best manufacturer really, Honda at the moment, and that's.
Bruh.
As the only rider to have scored points in all 11 Grand Prix so far this season, that sequence including 8 top 10 finishes. We'll be hoping for a bit of a pre-birthday boost as well. What a way it might be to celebrate his 29th birthday.
Ya elah, servernya kenapa sih bang? Pakai server turbo, coba.
As we pick up Paul Espargaro, who's dropped his notebook and his microphone. Of course, very much a popular TV analyst now for our Spanish colleagues at DAZN. Well, back on a 300 horsepower MotoGP bike for the first time in competitive action this year is Paul, as he goes through the blind entry.
Sama aja, bro. Lebih parah malah bro. Aku ganti server coba guys.
Maverick Vinales back at the Grand Prix of Aragon.
Ini nih.
Steiner very keen this morning to make it very clear that he and the Tech 3 squad have not parted company with Maverick Vinales. He is still very much a part of that team, and they're hoping to have him on the bike in 3 weeks' time.
You can see that new graphic from Michelin, the rear tyre surface temperature.
Rear tire surface temperature kelihatan ini. Bagian tengahnya dingin, bagian kanan kuning, bagian kiri panas. Sekarang bagian bisa kelihatan gitu ya, keren banget ya teknologinya ya. 160 derajat anjir, panas banget.
We're getting a lot more pleasant conditions. As you can see, riding on board with Marc Marquez, glorious, clear blue
Sebelah kiri
skies.
dingin, gampang dingin, gampang panas bannya. 80 derajat termasuk dingin ban ya.
And Chapel Curb is the right left-hander just off in the distance that takes us on to Hangar Straight.
Ban kirinya panas tuh langsung. Temperaturnya normal itu. Kuning, merah. Kita on board dengan Marc Marquez. Gigi 4 tuh mentok. Kayaknya tapi dia pakai gigi 3 guys. Kalau main game gigi 4, ini gigi 3 4 5 untuk gigi 5 di situ.
No better tour guide around one of the fastest tracks on the Grand Prix calendar than 7 times world champion Marc Marquez, although he has
7-time world champion Marc Marquez
since 2014, one of his sort of longest losing runs.
9-time world champion gitu. Kalau Rossignoli biasanya kayak gitu. Raul Fernandez nih. Gila, merah semua sektor 1 2 3.
In a sprint in 2026, he cleaned up in the first 6 sprints of the campaign, but
gila.
was defeated here for the first time by brother Alex. Well, what a 2026 Superfart Trackhouse Aprilia are experiencing. Both Ayagura and Ralph Fernandez already winners so far this season, both title contenders. Ralph Fernandez, we're looking at him on screens right now with a new Michelin soft rear tyre, is about to go into top spot, fresh off the back of a new 2-year contract as well. Fantastic times then for the American team. Ralph Fernandez is quickest, so what better time than to join the
Marquez ini struggle, Marquez masih struggle guys. Raul Fernandez fastest 1 menit 57.779. Gila, kenceng banget. Dia pakai ban depan hard, ban belakangnya soft guys. Sisa 33 menit, masih banyak waktunya.
Negotiations taking quite some time, but it feels as though, I'm sure you'll agree, a decision that has been earned by Raul. How much has his maturity, his performances since the turn of the year been the big influencing factor?
Certainly a big influencing factor. I mean, you know, Raul's like the original OG. He's like the original here at Trackhouse, and he's put in a lot of work over the years.
Kayak berapa Marc Marquez coba?
Matured a lot, and you know,
P3 Marc Marquez guys, naik.
There's a period.
Belakangnya Alex Marquez.
Mentalize that and get on the racetrack and do the job, which shows resilience, it shows maturity and approach, and it just, I mean, he's a great member of his team. He's really coming into his own as a.
Kok ngantuk wah.
Strider, it can really affect results. So for him to have used it as fuel and motivation, I'm sure you'll agree, means he deserves great.
Raul Fernandez gila masih merah lagi guys. Morbidelli P2 sekarang. Ducati Aprilia sih ini jamin gua. Morbidelli masih bisa kencang lagi loh. Gila 739 sekarang. 57.739 Kenapa dah?
And channel that into performance on the racetrack. That's what the great riders have to do.
Slow corner di sini. Sirkuit layout F1 banget guys. Cocok lah buat F1 ini.
I'm really, he's a great guy, and he's become a friend, and he's truly a member of the family here at Trackhouse.
Feels as though that pressure you mentioned when it comes to a championship is only going to ramp up. You've got both riders in contention. You're well in contention for the team's championship as well. So early into your MotoGP journey, can you believe you're in this position?
Sampai ngebul.
It's not a lot different than kind of how our
ban belakang si Raul guys, saking ngepusnya dia ngebul ban belakang.
Early in the process, because you know the excitement and the enthusiasm and inspiration about a new project.
Tapi pit line-nya kecil ya. Oh, mungkin gara-gara diubah ini pit line buat motor, yang satunya buat pit line MotoGP guys.
Really great right now. We've got two riders that are riding as well as they ever have in their careers, and we got a whole bunch of people here, mechanics and engineers that are fully bought into the opportunity. And so when all that
Raul slipstream Yamaha. Gila sih, ngeri banget top speednya. Aprilia guys.
That's where the magic is, and it's all coming together right now. We're not thinking really about the championship. I mean, there's so much racing left to go. This is about execution. It's about showing up at the racetrack well prepared, just executing well on the racetrack with the preparation. So if we just take every race weekend and every day and every session for what the objective is at that moment, then hopefully this team is in a position going to Valencia that we can look at the board and say, okay, now we can go fight for a championship. But we're not going to think about that until really after Barcelona, like the Monday before Valencia.
And just finally to touch on, I sat second in the championship, one of the form riders of the championship at the moment. On Thursday at London, he was center stage, the spotlight.
Ogura juga kenceng tuh. P4 sekarang Ogura. Kenapa pakai ban depan hard sih kebanyakan? Medium, coba medium. Apa panas banget cuacanya ya? Terlalu panas cuacanya kayaknya guys di Silverstone sekarang. Kelihatan rumputnya juga musim kemarau itu habis summer.
He's a very even keel guy, and he's somebody to your point that I think when the
Tuh kamar ini sektor 2-nya jelek banget. Plus 1 detik. Jorge Martin juga masih struggle, dia P8 sekarang nih guys ya. Bisa 25 menit, 28 menit. Terus deh.
What a time it is to be part of Trackhouse fully right now. Thanks Jack, thanks as always.
Kayaknya besok gua bakal sprint race-nya doang deh guys. Sprint race-nya terus race-nya ya. Race-nya gua iniin apa namanya? Bikin kayak gini lagi. Jadi live reaction.
They are losing Ayagura to the factory Yamaha team next year. That might be seen as a probably dropping the ball somewhat. I think Ayagura slipped through the net, but they will have Ralph Fernandez signed up with them for the next couple of years. The strong rumour has quieted down a little bit, but we do expect it still to be Enea Bastianini that will be slotting in alongside Raul next season. And while we were listening to that lovely little chat with Jack and Justin, Ralph Fernandez did find more time. He got down to 157.739, and it's getting even better because as we're speaking and waxing lyrical about Trackhouse, Ayagura makes it a Trackhouse 1-2 once again. We've said that already, haven't we, on a few occasions in 2026. A 157.628 from Ayagura. Sam, we're creeping ever closer to Fabio Quartararo's all-time lap record of 157.233, and we know, because we've seen it in evidence for so many years, just how close Alex and Mark Marquez are off track. Well, they can't be any closer on track right now because Alex is 5th, Mark is 6th, and they have set the exact same lap time around Silverstone. What a stat that is. The pair of them have logged 158.201.
Kontrasnya terlalu gede itu.
Literally inseparable at the moment this afternoon. Alex, Ayagura not stronger at Silverstone. I don't think so. Look at that 4th sector, which enabled him to take top spot away from his teammate Ralph Fernandez. And Trackhouse 1-2 is something we're getting quite used to saying at the moment. We said it twice in 2 days at the TT circuit Assen when they were 1-2 in the sprint and 1-2 in the Grand Prix. Ayagura didn't get past free practice 1 here last year before he broke his leg in that fast crash coming through turn 2. But Ayagura just appears at the moment. This might just be a moment in time. Who knows? This might just be Ayagura on a consistent basis going forward. But he appears at the moment to be a rider with no obvious weakness.
Mereka benar-benar lakuin putaran terus-terusan ya.
As the first Japanese rider to lead the MotoGP World Championship in 51 long years. 14 points is the narrow gap between the Japanese star and Jorge Martin at the top of the ranking. Just moving out of your picture there was Martin.
24 poin terpisah dari top 5 rider gapnya. 24-24. Gersang banget lagi di Silverstone guys. Marau banget.
He has never been tighter after 11 Grand Prix in the modern era of MotoGP. Strap yourselves in folks because the second half.
Kalau ada tai ayam bikin jatuh nggak ya rider ya? Pasti bikin jatuh sih. Licin. Kan tai ayam ada airnya. Kalau mereka nginjek tai ayam satu aja ban depan pas lagi ngerem satu aja guys, jatuh pasti. Gila, Ayagura aku baru ngeh Ayagura fastest 1 menit 57.628. Duo satelit Aprilia guys.
world rankings at the halfway point.
What the heck, bro? Dua satelit Aprilia.
The world championship leader leading the reigning
Ngamuk.
world champion, who've both got fresh rear tyre in. Martin's got a medium rear according to the graphic, but Marc Marquez certainly is on a soft rear tyre and is closing in on the 89 up ahead of him as he's right on board through Woodcut corner, which Marc Marquez might not necessarily have completely good memories with. Alex Rins picked his pocket there back in 2019, but Marc
Marquez towing ke Jorge Martin. Oke, merah sektor 2 Marc Marquez.
Battle. What a last few laps it was between Rins and Marc. What is it now? 7 years ago, back in 2019.
2019.
Having fun, it still remains that one, the fourth closest ever finish.
Alex Rins sama Marc Marquez 2019 ya. Emang 2019? Kira 2000 berapa gitu? Oh, itu 2019.
Topping out at about 340 km an hour. Yeah, a bit of a scare, losing the front
there
going into Stowe at the start of this session. So Marc Marquez then saw him in 6th place at the end of play this morning. He's been in that 6th place in this practice session for quite some time so far this afternoon. But it's going to be the first big Friday move then. The first big move
Marquez
on the opening date for the number 93. Out of club, he powers the factory.
P3 guys.
First time
1.57.807.
slot himself inside that top 3, a 1:57.807.
Couldn't match Agura though through that fourth sector once again, as we saw on the graphic a moment ago. Agura with the sizable
P3 Marquez praktisnya lolos.
in that fourth sector.
Sisa 10 menit lolos ke Q2 biasanya seru tuh. Masih lama waktunya.
See how strong Agura was through there. So we've now got Aprilia, Ducati, the top 4. Aprilia, Ducati 5th and 6th, KTM 7th, Acosta, Aprilia 8th, Martin, Ducati 9th, Lecuona on a 58.441. That's a heck of a lap time from the substitute at Grassini, and Fabio Di Gianantonio on the VR46 Ducati at the moment, completing the top 10.
57.8 on a fresh rear tyre from Marc Marquez. But look how many laps are on that hard front. So that's a pretty decent lap time that by Marc, because the extra grip, the extra push from that soft rear tyre with 12 laps on the hard front. Now that would have at times been overloading that front tyre. I mean, you can see Bagnaia, he's gone out with a fresh front tyre on, with the fresh rear slick as well. So given the fact that Marc Marquez had done over half full race distance on that hard front tyre to deliver a 57.8 with a fresh rear, you feel there's a lot more to come from the reigning world champion. Soft ends the combo for number 63, Pecco Bagnaia.
Aduh, kayaknya gue nggak bisa lanjut lagi, teman-teman, ngantuk banget. Ini nanggung, coy.
As he attack through the first corner, this spectacular sweep. They're now 4th gear through turn 2, the farm curve. That's where Agura lost the rear of his Aprilia here last year and suffered the fractured right tibia.
Pecco Bagnaia sekarang.
Track tightens up now then, as we go through village and then through the loop and then
baru tuh bagian depannya Ducati tuh.
Turn 5, the fast left-hander of Aintree, before we start galloping down towards the Wellington Straight. 5th gear down here, reaching almost 300 kilometers now. Hard on the brakes once again into Brooklands. One of several good overtaking opportunities this at the end of that Wellington Straight.
Yeah, Luffield next, where of course we might call Bagnaia
Suara Ducati kok kayak ini bang,
when
sekarang
Bagnaia was
kenceng.
at an all-time low in that early 2025 season with Ducati.
Pakai soft depan, soft belakang Pecco Bagnaia nih, lihat nih, harusnya kenceng nih.
Tomorrow morning, more pressing matters at the moment. We have to make sure that he's directly into that second qualifying session here in Q16 on the Mahindra Moto3 bike. He'd love to get another pole position in the books here in Q2 tomorrow morning. More pressing matters at the moment. We have to make sure that he's directly into that second qualifying session as we move closer to the final third of this vital 60-minute afternoon practice here.
Kuning 161 plus sektor 3 menuju sektor 4 sekarang dia.
Into Stowe corner. This is turn 15.
Stone corner.
Hollow here down in the dip as he approaches down towards Vale. This is going back down through the gearbox. Ducati snaking sideways there as he break down into turn 16 through 17 years now through the final corner. A long right-hander of 18. This is club corner. Is in the Q2 club.
P4 Pecco 34 Ducati Lenovo ya. Nice.
So Pecco Bagnaia now ensuring as it stands
debu banget. Sirkuitnya sekarang banyak debu, guys.
Going through the Q2.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Noah's Ark look of it at the
Iker Lecuona juga masuk ke Q2 loh. Gila, pembalap WSBK masuk 10 besar, guys. Iker Lecuona.
What a good 6 inches or so in the air there on the factory Ducati. Lands back on the tarmac, chucks a load of weight forward, but Bagnaia still managed to get the front end in.
He wants to know how he's got arm pump. That's how he got arm pump, breaking his factory Ducati like that. An arm pump issue, which he said he first really.
What a lap that was from Pecco Bagnaia.
Has got him comfortably top phases. The ice cool Ai Ogura, a 157.628, has got him comfortably top of the standings. Once again, a track house, a brilliant 1-2, just over a tenth, splitting Ogura and Fernandez. He's about as cool and calm and collected as they come, isn't he, Ai Ogura?
Yeah, he's so cool. He sometimes looks bored, doesn't he, when he's sitting in the box. My mind's drawn back to the conversation that he had with Mark and Pecco. This is after the Czech Grand Prix, wasn't it? Where Mark asked Ai Ogura if it was a particularly physical race. And Ai Ogura just shrugged his shoulders and went, no, not really. Nothing seems to bother him at all. And as Justin Mark said, that is a great skill to have. That is a great trait to have at this level of competition when you're challenging for the biggest prize on two wheels, when you can just completely block out the pressure.
And he knows so many of those title rivals around him on more than one occasion this year have dropped the ball. They have made big mistakes. Ogura-san has made so few. I mean, you cast your minds back, really. I mean, there was that last corner indiscretion with Pedro Acosta in Barcelona, but his one and only DNF so far this season was nothing to do with him. It wasn't his fault, of course. It was when he was charging towards
18 menit lagi, guys.
Austin, when his Aprilia broke down. So there has not been a self-inflicted no score so far this year for Ai Ogura. We know he's got the
Masih
speed,
Ai Ogura
consistency as well. This is why
fastestnya.
he is building what is a very impressive and very strong World Championship challenge. You know, those around him have got to start cutting out some of those unforced errors. I mean, Jorge Martin, 2 sprint DNFs, 1 DNF in the Grand Prix. Marc Marquez, a sprint DNF, a DNF in the Grand Prix, missed 2 Grand Prix, injured of course. Marco Betts,
nggak ramah buat Honda ini sirkuitnya.
Littered
ngap Honda cengap-cengap di sini, guys. Cengap lagi. Nafasnya habis Honda di sini.
And Bruno, we didn't see Marco Betts see the checker flag in sprints.
Kita lihat Pedro Acosta memulai hot lap. P8 dia sekarang, tapi P8 itu nggak aman. Di Antonio juga di luar Q2. Juan Mir, Enea Bastianini ini, Brad Binder semuanya. Quartararo yang tahun kemarin gacor di sirkuit ini juga hilang. Dia di P berapa ini? 18.
Like he said in the Saxon ring, if you're second to Marc Marquez in Germany, you know you're doing a heck of a job, and that's exactly where he was. Only Marc Marquez in the last 4 or 5 Grand Prix has outscored Ogura-san. So those two really have stepped it up in terms of their championship challenge. There's a mistake there by one of the KTM through the dust. I think it's Binder. Yeah, Brad Binder then.
Brad Binder jatuh.
Going through turn 7. That's the Luffield corner. Second gear through there. So
kena ini, kena pasir. Debunya.
Silverstone dust. The other one of them, Pedro Acosta, actually
banyak banget.
Right and mobile.
Bukan gravel kayak, guys, kayak pasir.
Second mic in your picture, just on the way through Luffield, which is a long old corner.
Kayak pasir, anjir.
First initial apex, and then a lot of your focus as you're rounding Luffield is giving yourself the best slingshot out up towards Woodcut. Binder then down on the deck and down in 15th place at the moment as his teammate Acosta is looking to climb up from P8.
16 menit lagi.
Unbelievable performance. Iker Lecuona at the moment is 10th. He's going to be going to Q2. Absolutely brilliant by the rider who for so many times this year was had to play second fiddle and rack up a whole bunch of second places to Nicolo Buliga, but shining once again with this opportunity to showcase his talents on the MotoGP stage. Lecuona 10th with a 58.441. Where's this lap going to take a cost through? Just moved out of our picture. He's going to be through the final corner now. Second. That was a brilliant lap by Acosta. The one factory KTM rider that was still standing at the end of that lap. stood up and was really counted there. 57.675 for Costa, up into P2. He splits Trackhouse duo.
And behind him was this man who's been next to nowhere for most of the day, in fairness, Diogo Moreira, who himself was in London yesterday at the press conference in Outernet ahead of this British Grand Prix. Moreira has vaulted himself now up into the top 10 at the expense of Lecuona. So Moreira on a 158.406 is now in the top 10 and top Honda, and that now puts Jorge Martin, the World Championship leader, right on the edge. He's now the rider at risk.
Silverstone wing on the Hamilton straight, so it's going to be a long trip back to the paddock to pick up the spare bike for the South African, making a right fist of this current session, and on this time attack is Acosta. He is, well, he said he needed a miracle.
Sektor 1, 2, 3 merah semua, guys.
Miracles right now, isn't he, on that KTM RC16? Just look at the lap time. Acosta is poised to deliver here.
Acosta ngamuk ini.
57.233 is Quartararo's all-time lap record. Well, that could be under serious
Quartararo all-time lap recordnya mau di break. Alex Marquez juga tuh ngamuk tuh. Morbidelli juga ngamuk tuh. Oh, lap cancel dia Morbidelli. Di Antonio merah sektor 2, 3, 4 kayaknya nih. Sektor terakhir Pedro Acosta.
Here comes Acosta then. Now then, is this going to be the fastest ever lap around Silverstone?
Berapa nih?
Has he nailed this final sector? We'll track him on that short run.
Fastest.
57.535. It's not an all-time lap record, but he is the fastest rider on practice Friday here at Silverstone. For how much longer remains to be seen, because his time under immediate pressure from Alex Marquez and
Gacor nih Alex Marquez. 1 menit 57.267 guys.
Alex Marquez does fire in what is almost the best ever lap of Silverstone.
Di Antonio tiba-tiba nongol di P2.
Seriously hotting up here at the British Grand Prix. Alex Marquez back in control with a
Mark Marquez juga nih merah nih, sektor 1-2 nih Mark Marquez nih.
Rins has gone into the top 10 too. He's right behind Digia on the racetrack. Followed the VR-Follish Ducati to take 9th place. So that now puts Bezzecchi down to 10th and Martin to 11th. Moreira's
merah semua nih Mark Marquez nih.
Put him in the top 10. That's why he's back in 20th. But look at the world champion now rising to the challenge.
Oh, big moment there as he went through Chapel on the gas. Just asking a little
hampir high set dia.
How much time, how much momentum down the Hanger Straight did that cost Mark? We'll find out very shortly.
Awas jatuh, hati-hati.
That's why the Prima Pramac Yamaha star is mounting a pretty serious tilt towards this Q2 session. Miller was really rapid through the first
trial braking hard.
Of Marc Marquez. Agura also. We're going to get a new all-time lap record here very quickly. We might get the first ever 156 lap of Silverstone. Is the world champ? Marc Marquez goes for close. A 157.0.
Marc Marquez fastest. Tipis banget 1 menit 56 itu. Gila. Kelas banget Marquez. Ogura nih, lihat nih. Ogura ngamuk. Mereka udah pakai ban soft sekarang sih. Soft depan, soft belakang 325 minus sektor 3 merah, sektor 4. Gila, Ogura ngeri coy, ampun suhu, ampun. Masih belum 10 menit sih, masih 11 menit udah chaos. Ya ngapa pakai loading dah tiba-tiba dah. Ogura fastest 56,8. Bezzecchi P4 sekarang.
Marquez and Acosta. Miller 7th for
over the line he goes, up into P4.
57.1 for Bezzecchi. So Tagura, Digia, Mark. Then it's Bezzecchi, Alex Marquez and Acosta. Miller 7th for Pramac Yamaha ahead of Mir Fernandez, who was P1. What, 5 minutes ago? He's now down to 9th and Morbidelli 10th. The World Championship leader here on screen needs a lap. He's down in 17th.
Needs a massive lap. Big 10.5 minutes coming up or so for Martin. Agura's getting even quicker. I mean, he's just rubbing their nose in it right now, isn't he? He's a 10th and a half a little bit more clear of the Gian Antonio.
Ogura udah sih mentok gitu.
I mean, the way it's going,
Gila Ogura guys, serem banget.
Season the World Championship lead come the end of this weekend.
Bakal gacor Ogura sih di sini sih, gacor sih. Ogura versus Marquez guys. Ogura versus Marquez nanti.
Can he get himself inside that top 10? That's his first goal. He does. Good lap. 57.286. Let's put Martin up 10 places. 17 to 7. That was a big step forward.
10 rider doang ya masuk Q2 ya. Iya sih. Kan 2 ridernya dari Q1.
I can do better at track out Aprilia.
And this is what Justin Marks must be loving at the moment.
Raul Fernandez nggak mau kalah, sektor 1 dia merah juga. Aprilia satelit serem banget guys. Sampai ngebul tuh ban. Kuning tapi sektor 2.
Done that previously with Marc Marquez and
sektor 3 kuning, makin jauh lagi.
Ralph Fernandez, surely he's safe in terms of a place in Q2, but he's not going to want to leave anything to chance. He powers the Aprilia down the hanger straight, on the brakes and now back a couple of gears, well back 3 gears from 6th to 3rd. Through Stowe we go. Can't see him making up a quarter of a second on Agura in this final sector. Can anybody make up that time on Agura? 56.810. I mean, it's the thick end of 4/10 of a second clear of Fabio Quartararo's 2025 all-time lap record, which looks like snail's pace at the moment, doesn't it? Over the line, Ralph Fernandez goes. There's no improvement from him, but it is another low 157.
8 menit lagi, guys.
There's a half second or just under covering the top 7 down to Martin, and then there's a quarter of a second gap. So the top 7 for me at the moment look fairly safe. Agura is safe as houses at the moment on a 156.810. He's heading to qualifying 2. Martin up in P7. Certainly won't feel safe at the moment, but 57.2, he's got nearly half a second back to Frankie Morbidelli in 11th.
Just looks effortless. Barely any beads of sweat on Agura's forehead there, was there? It's just rider and machine working in perfect harmony right now, aren't they?
53 derajat.
RSGP have materialized into towards the
tail end of the first half of the
championship campaign. They are blowing off any summer break cobwebs in some spectacular style, aren't they? A 56.810 from Agura. Fastest ever rider around Silverstone. Fair play to Fabio Di Antonio for becoming the second rider.
Di Antonio tiba-tiba ke P2 guys.
56. But look at it, it just looks like it's all coming easy.
Bisa ini.
It isn't. We know it isn't.
Ogura emang kelihatan gampang, emang dia pendiam. Katanya Ogura look so easy katanya. Emang bukannya kayak gitu dia.
Is Agura. Can anybody target it on that 156.8? What a benchmark, what a standard, what a time that is that's been fired in by Agura. I mean, Justin Marks telling Jackie, oh, we're not thinking about the World Championship right now.
Well,
yeah, we are. And I'm sure there are a lot of Japanese fans over in Southeast Asia who are starting to believe, they're starting to dream. There has never, ever in Grand Prix history, they're starting to dream. There has never, ever in Grand Prix history.
Kenapa ini macet-macet, guys?
I mean, Justin Marks telling Jackie, oh, we're not thinking. There's an awful lot of racing. 11th round still remaining, but Agura has stepped up big time. No question, he is in the mix for this title.
Bagnaia needs to step up now. He's on a lap which has just completed. He does move himself up into 10th place. Far from safe. He's 3 thousandths ahead of Joan Mir, but the 2022 British Grand Prix winner on his way to the first of his 2 World Championships, of course. Pecco Bagnaia does for the moment at least get himself into Q2.
And let's just give a humongous shout out to Crutchlow. Behind Cal Crutchlow, he might not stay like this at the back end of this session, but as it stands right now, Cal Crutchlow is ahead of Fabio Quartararo, the previous all-time lap record holder here at Silverstone. He's ahead of double winner here in 2024, Enea Bastianini, who won the Sprint and Grand Prix here a couple of years ago. He's ahead of Brad Binder. He's ahead of Diogo Moreira.
Pecco jatuh.
Pecco Bagnaia then. Well,
posisi 10 lagi dia.
He is right in the danger zone. He's gone down at turn 6. That's into Brooklands, is it yet? We're going to see him trail braking into.
Aduh, mau lihat replay ini malah tiba loading. Come on, man.
He is in
low set ya, low set. Nggak masuk Q2 ini kayaknya Pecco Bagnaia nih, masuk ke Q1 dia, guys.
Session over for Bagnaia, no question about that. Now he's just going to be hoping and praying that he can hang on to that 10th place.
Joan Mir bisa sih masuk Q2 sih itu.
Then we've got Marini, Rins, Crutchlow would be heroic, beyond heroic if he can get it to Q2. Today he's 15th.
Crutchlow home hero juga bisa tuh, home hero.
Next up, those are the sort of riders that Pecco Bagnaia and those that support him will be nervously looking at on the timing screens in the remaining 4 minutes.
This is one of the toughest tracks to conquer on the Grand Prix calendar. Super fast, high-speed change direction, hard braking. There is Cal Crutchlow at the ripe old age of 40.
Lebar.
1.3 seconds.
Ada yang jatuh lagi?
I just thought in my head, so it sounded like we may have had another
Pedro Acosta.
Second time then on this opening day at the British Grand Prix.
Dia P8 juga.
This morning, turn 4 this afternoon then. That's caught out.
Jack Miller merah ajrit. Yamaha loh. Satelit loh. Sebentar.
Front end has already gone, and the end of Pedro Acosta's session with it. So the rider's in 8th and 10th at the moment, unless Acosta can get his bike going again, which in fact he.
Ya elah. 3 menit lagi loh, tunggu kelar doang, ngapain kayak gini sih?
Don't think Alex's place in the top 10 is under any great threat. He's currently in 6th place. Let's see where this lap might take Alex. He's got Jack Miller to come in. Alex goes to 3rd. Miller does pick up 1 place then up into 8th.
Jack Miller ke P8.
But Bagnaia is still hanging on.
Bagnaia masih bertahan. Oh, Mir masuk ke Q2, guys. Pecco Bagnaia.
Halfway through sector
3. Joan Mir, Pecco Bagnaia keluar. Enea Bastianini keluar. Pedro Acosta sekarang nih. Bisa keluar dari Q2 dia.
Stealing all the headlines here on practice Friday at the British Grand Prix. Marc Marquez also looking.
Aduh, ngapa sih loading lagi, kocak.
Team duel with Agura.
Moreira's just improved himself to 13th, but Acosta at the moment grimly hanging on to P10. Raul Fernandez then makes his way into Vale Corner.
Raul Fernandez nih kenceng lagi dia. Ngejar ini fastest all time.
And this inter-team rivalry, which is very much a healthy rivalry at Trackhouse, is going to take them to a 1-2 on Friday. Fernandez at 56.6.
Raul Fernandez 56,6.
In dreamland. They can't.
Kan ku bilang juga apa, Aprilia coy gacor. Ku bilang juga apa, guys.
It has been destroyed by the Trackhouse Aprilia in particular. Marc Marquez.
Trackhouse Aprilia. Aduh, BCC ngamuk nih. Sektor 1-2 merah dia.
In the 56s, will the honor now go to Marco Bezzecchi, who's currently circulating in 7th place?
Baru sembuh dia.
Estimated P1 for
udah habis waktunya, tinggal 50 detik lagi.
The third gear sweep through Maggots and Beckett's.
When push has come to shove in this practice session, it's Aprilia who are stretching clear of Ducati, it feels like, at the moment, because Fernandez has got a 2/10 on Agura, and Gian Antonio, who's the first of the Ducatis, is 3.5 tenths back of Ralph Fernandez. Bezzecchi then is into the final sector, with Martin going quickly behind him too. Aprilia might lock out the top 4 in this session yet.
Talked about that, what a shot in the arm that 56.8 would be.
Besieci kah, Fastas kah?
What a shot in the recovering arm.
Ngalahin satelitnya ini, harusnya gitu sih tim utamanya. Yang lebih unggul dari tim satelitnya sih, harusnya gitu sih guys.
Of injury and controversy and mistakes galore over the last few weeks, but what a return to action it could be for Bez, showing his true mettle, showing his true character here.
Besieci.
That is incredible. Marco Bezzecchi.
Mau 1 menit 55 loh.
That's the way you bounce back from adversity. That's the way you silence your critics. That's the way you show
All time lap record.
right in the mix for this world
Mematahkan punya Quartararo 57.233. Jauh banget ya lap time-nya ya. 56.280 guys. 56.280 Silverstone ya. Gue berapa? Di game beda guys.
Aprilia with a major statement on this practice Friday at Silverstone. 1, 2, 4 and 5. Agura's amazing lap earlier on ends up half second adrift.
Pastes praktis. Besieci, Jorge Martin, Marc Marquez struggle di sini P6 dia. Aprilia bakalan fight di depan 4-4-nya guys, gue jamin guys. Ducati sih Gigi Antonio doang P3 tuh yang membelah antara duo Aprilia di atas dan duo Aprilia di belakang. Jadi 1-2 Aprilia, 3-nya Gigi Antonio Ducati, 4-5-nya Aprilia guys. Gila ya Aprilia ya.
And what a day one it has been here at the British Grand Prix. What a way it has been to
Oke lah, sepertinya gitu aja teman-teman. Gue bakal end stream ya. Aduh.
Not more so than Marco Bezzecchi. Absolutely sensational. Over 3/10 clear of Ralph Fernandez.
Gila udah selesai praktisnya guys.
6.280. Just looking at the timing screens, 8 riders: Bezzecchi, Fernandez, Digia, Martin Agura, the Marquez brothers, and Juan.
Kencang banget pada. Ya udahlah teman-teman, thank you. Ini udah macet-macet, gue nggak tahu kenapa nih. Gue akan akhiri buat stream hari ini. Thank you. Besok gue nge-live kayak gini lagi mode ini ya. Yang sprint race ya. Thank you guys. Gue Arif pamit undur diri. I see you soon guys. Bye bye. Ciao. Kita ketemu lagi besok teman-teman. Di sprint race ya.
Session at turn 4,
bye bye.
he does still scrape into Q2.